Mic check. Fantastic. Show 47. Let's get things ready. Should we start? A few more seconds. Let everyone in. Welcome all. Should have a great show today. Make sure my phone. Have I promoted it? Yes, I have. Sometimes I can't get to the normal promotion stuff, but I'm sure people remember it's every week at the same time. Here we go. Let's do the magic little transition. Voila, magic. Show 40, show 74, sorry. All right. Oh, every time my phone starts making noises when I go live, that's how it is. That's how it is. And it's something that's got nothing to do with it at all. Maybe I put that as a mute as it goes on. Give me 17 seconds. Voila, fantastico. Anyway, cool. So everyone, welcome to the Betterment Broadcast, show 474. I always go backwards. This is Rap Raven, your host. Yep, today should be a fantastic, super, mega, ultra good show, one believes. Right, so we're going to start how we always start, which is giving you the basics that you need to know before we can go on. So after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that currently Black people are collectively inadequate. Ooh, yeah, it's very, very, very sad indeed. But we're going to do something about it. That's what we're going to do, something about it. Right, cool. So move on. Naturally, we're going to send out links. This is a community show. Everyone's opinion matters, and that's good. So we're going to send it out. But obviously, people have different views, different speeds, different anxiety levels, and all that good stuff. So we're going to try to use the 4D values, which are, when we speak, remember, we want to have discipline, dedication, discernment, and dignity. If we can have these four things, then, it should be good. Let's big up Empress Kushti. There you go. Thank you, Empress Kushti. You're helping behind the scenes. Couldn't do it without the crew. Well done there. Super fantastic. But yes, remember, people, discipline, dedication, discernment, and dignity. If we can use that generally on the show, but to be honest with you, if you want to use these 4D values out there when you're trying to help Black people, I can put it out there that actually is very helpful. Try it yourself. Try to use those four values and see, does helping Black people become easier? I suspect it will be. Let's move on. All right, cool. So let's not use derogative language. Sometimes we get carried away. Also on the show, we're going to play some videos that are not copyrighted to me, and they might say some language that is obviously derogatory. We're studying it, but we're not actually using it ourselves. So hopefully that will make it easier. Voila. Okay, where are we? So what is Black Betterment? I hear no one say. Well, it's Black people helping Black people on Black issues for betterment. That's what it is. That's what it is. Sounds very basic, right? Very simple, because it is. It's a lifestyle. This is what we're pushing on this show, the lifestyle Black Betterment. If we can get as many Black people to practice this, you'll be surprised at how much things become better. That's right. Sometimes you need to articulate certain things, and sometimes thinking things will fix themselves never works. That's right. Never works. So you've got to actually have plans, actions, mores and all that, and culture and all that good stuff, making sure you're doing something. Because if you're not doing something, you're probably doing nothing. All right. Excellent. Okay. I guess I have to read this, so here we go. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976 allowances made fair use purposes such as criticism, comment, use, reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, personal use, tips, and about in favor of fair use. Yeah, we're going to show people's videos, and that just means it's not ours. Wow. Well, that was quick. That was 4 minutes. Under them 2 minutes because I started slightly later. So today's fantastic topic is: are Black people collectively too forgiving towards anti-Black racism? Why have I said this? It's happened throughout the year and last year and the year before, and since Black people have been in captivity and stuff. But generally, what it is, it's mainly non-Black people, and in this case, it seems to be Europeans, white people, and sometimes they say racist things. Maybe they're caught on the tape, or maybe they say it on a song, or they say it, behind closed doors, whatever it might be. But it comes out to the public, and then Black people, how do they react to this? Some are not best pleased. Some are very forgiving. Some, do whatever they want to do, right? So we're going to kind of look at that. We're going to try and analyze, is there patterns coming there, how Black people act? Is there a way collectively Black people should act that works in the best interest of Black people? I think there is. Are we doing that? I think we're not. But, maybe we're wrong. People will jump in and say what they have to say. So what I've got, I've actually blackified a whole lot of videos that we're going to jump back and forth to review. We're going to look at the Hulk Hogan. This was a few months back, or maybe years, I can't remember. But Hulk Hogan did racist comments when it came out. And then we're going to look at the others. Joe Rogan is the latest. And for those of you that don't know, he's been caught up this week or last week, I can't remember, with a tape saying about the N-word and some other monkeys kind of stuff. But we've got it on the video, so we'll talk it through. So let's get that up, and then we'll go through and we'll talk. Let's go. Let's reverse that. Nice
no matter what you think about Hulk Hogan, controversial athlete and actor,
so headline. Hulk Hogan. I mean, we'll skip through some of it, but what we're going to analyze is how the media actually talk about the act, and and how they put it out there, how the individual defends himself, tries to justify this kind of stuff, and then we're going to see if there's any black people who come to the aid, and does the media use them as a certain kind of tool to help out to make things smooth. And is that on code? Is that non-black people getting on code in their establishments, and are black people themselves getting on code, or are they used as tools? But we don't know. We're gonna research, because that's what we do here. We research.
Making reality TV star. The guy was a game changer in the world of professional wrestling, but tonight, in the midst of a racial slur scandal, he's fighting to repair his legacy, opening up exclusively to ABC's Amy Robach about the fallout and the path to forgiveness.
Hulk Hogan's here! Hulk Hogan is in the building!
With his signature leg drop, horseshoe mustache, and unrivaled strength, 12-time world champion Hulk Hogan single-handedly transformed wrestling into a global phenomenon.
Unbelievable!
Today, he's fighting outside of the ring to maintain his legacy.
Could we stop for a second?
Terry Bollea, the man behind the once indestructible Hulkster, letting his guard down.
Out of everything that I've been through, this one hit me probably the hardest, and that's a heck of a thing to say. So I've been through a lot of crazy stuff. Including
an admission of steroid use and his son's legal issues. But last month, a new controversy which threatens to erase his legacy. The National Enquirer reports that Hogan used racial slurs in audio secretly recorded.
I was at the lowest point of...
So let's break down what happened. Hulk Hogan, probably the most famous professional wrestler. Maybe him and Stone Cold might be the same, but historically it's probably Hulk Hogan. Anyway, a lot of his swag and style was taken from black Americans, African Americans, this kind of stuff. But nevertheless, very fan favorite, very beloved guy. Massive fan base. What happened is he was shooting a pornographic video with his best friend's wife. And for some reason, during this act, he thought it was necessary to talk about his displeasement with his daughter dating a African-American, I think basketball player, maybe, I can't remember. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe I think some comment was, if you're going to pick the N-word or whatever, make sure you pick a basketball player, this kind of stuff. Maybe because they have more money or something. I'm not too sure. Not really in his mind. Don't really think like him, really. But yeah, so that was what came out. A lot of interesting stuff going on there. Don't know how it happens, but different culture, different people, enjoying themselves. That's cool, but probably don't practice racism while you do it. And yeah, that's what came out. So this was a few months ago, maybe years. I can't remember. It's so long ago, I can't remember. But we're going to study it nonetheless. And we have covered it on the show at one point.
My personal life was destroyed.
Yep.
I was very mad at my daughter. I was upset over a situation that happened between her and her boyfriend. And I had no idea I was being taped. I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I sat in my bathroom by myself when my...
Let's analyze how the show's set up, the style and all that good stuff.
My ex-wife was gone and the kids were gone, and I was completely broken and destroyed. And I said, what's the easiest way out of this? I mean, I was lost.
You were suicidal.
Yes, I was.
Father's Day card for Brooke?
No. A stark contrast from the Hulk, whose upbeat and tight-knit family was portrayed over 4 seasons of the reality show Hogan Knows Best, where he was overprotective of his only daughter, Brooke.
I mean, I'm almost 18 and I haven't even had a boyfriend yet.
Well, that's good. That's what I wanted.
But according to the National Enquirer, he refers to his daughter's then-boyfriend using the N-word.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any personal preference who ethnically your daughter dates?
No, I don't.
I don't think that's true, but...
Actually, the guy my daughter was dating, I liked him a lot.
Ooh, this is another thing. Europeans or white people, they say like you a lot. Yet they use the N-word. You need to really iron that out, see what's going on there.
I've known him for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I was very mad at a personal situation that happened.
Never did work out what that personal situation was. It wasn't ever said, if at all. If anyone knows, let me know, because I never know. But let's carry on.
My daughter.
Are you a racist?
Well, good question to ask people. Very good question. Let's see what the answer is.
No, I'm not.
There you go. Didn't see that coming.
I'm not a racist. I never should have said what I said. It was wrong.
Is there any people out there who practice racism who say they are? This good, just so we can see in the videos. Let us see those videos. We'd like to see them. That's another thing for black people to defend yourself. If a person is a racist, they might not admit. Some might, but generally they don't. Just so you know.
I'm embarrassed by it,
right.
But a lot of people need to realize that you inherit things from your environment.
That's right. So this is something we're going to see consistently. Let's see what environment he came from, Hulk Hogan.
And where I grew up was South Tampa.
Oh yeah, sounds very rough.
Port Tampa,
oh, yeah.
And it was a really rough neighborhood.
Yep, it's rough. Yep, I was going to hear that.
Very low income.
Oh, yep, that does it as well.
And all my friends, we greeted each other.
So all his friends will greet each other.
Saying that word.
Right.
We teased each other with that word. The word was just thrown around like it was nothing.
What's interesting here, he probably might explain it, but I don't know if his friends were actually African American or black at all. Maybe he will say it. That'd be interesting if it wasn't, because that would actually be like a plot twist, isn't it?
Is it fair to say that you inherited a racial bias?
Well, that's interesting. Inherited. Very nice way to put it.
I would say that is very fair.
This is a very good way to do the media, very on code.
But you can break the cycle.
Now it's about solutions. You know, we can end this racism thing. We can do it. We can get it in a headlock. Good stuff.
And that's what everybody needs to know.
That's what you need to know. That's what you need to know.
You can break this cycle and become a better person.
Big up Tash, a very important contributor, very good at doing Black Bearman networking people out there. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show.
Person become who you're meant to be instead of who you're supposed to be.
Following these allegations, the WWE fired Balea. The legendary career he spent a lifetime building wiped out.
I was totally shocked because I've worked with the WWE for almost 30 years off and on, and then all of a sudden, everything I've done, my whole career, my whole life, was like it never happened.
Your image, your likeness, your name erased.
Yeah, like I'd never existed.
That had to hurt.
Oh my gosh, it was devastating. It destroyed me. I mean, I
did.
I don't know how to say it other than that. It was my whole life.
Right. So that right. Yeah.
Many industry bigwigs have come to his defense. Dwayne.
All right, now we're going to see the part. So we're going to see who comes to people's defense. Well, interesting enough, there's two people who practice racism on this actual video that we're studying. And funny enough, this brother here, The Rock Johnson, most highest paid actor in film currently, he seems to pop up a lot when it comes to defending anti-black comments from non-black people. But let's see what he says.
The Rock Johnson states, "I've known Terry for a lot of years. I had not known the man."
Also, even though he's saying what he's saying, remember this media show is devised, and notice that they're getting the black people's quotes. This is part of the pattern. Let's see if we can see any patterns.
To be racist. George Foreman says, "I do not condone the language he used, but he is no racist. He is a good guy."
I'm sure he is.
Even Hogan's daughter, Brooke, chimes in.
Your daughter posted a beautiful poem on Facebook. "If you knew the dad I knew, you'd know he raised me well. He taught me folks are so much more than shades could ever tell."
That's right.
Yeah. And if anybody...
All right. So let me skip part. So am I going to jump to... No, let me go through a few of them, then we'll jump on the other one. All right, cool play.
You know,
so we can skip some of that. I mean,
given Hogan talks so
at their lowest point was judged.
Yep. We'll kill yourself on that sense. All right, now, so that was the Hulk Hogan analytical bit. We're going to look at Joe Rogan, the most recent one, and see what he's going through, see if there's any similarities, any differences, and what kind of good stuff. We're just analyzing here, just trying to help black people. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. Black people come first when it comes to, trying to fix the challenges that black people have gone through for generations. All right.
Joe Rogan is now apologizing after videos resurfaced of him using the N-word multiple times on his podcast, Patriot Takes, which put the video together as an organization.
Very different dynamic. This one, it wasn't behind the scenes. It was actually aired, and what people done, they've collated all the time it's come on, and they put it into one video. I think historically, Joe Rogan wanted to be able to say the N-word. He's one of those people who really want to say it, this kind of concept that, if ignorant black people can say a word, why can't ignorant white people say it? Very interesting argument. So let's see.
That aims to expose extremism on the far right. The video is an edited compilation of different podcast episodes, and we have to warn you, this is very disturbing to hear.
Saying the word
I already said is just like saying she's calling you a like this.
For those who don't know, they're blurring the N word. You know, if you don't know that.
Boy, that he's in starts calling them word. There should be a word like, especially like the word. That's our about. He says guy and then starts saying allowed to use the word without the word see word say and he couldn't say most.
Just unbelievable. Let's bring in CNN's chief media correspondent, Brian Stelter. Brian, what does Joe Rogan now say?
He is now apologizing, and we're going to find out if that's enough for Spotify, the company that has an exclusive distribution deal with him. Jim, this is all coming to light because of the recent controversy about anti-vaccine rhetoric on Rogan's podcast. Some artists decided to quit the service. One of them, India Ari, pointed out this video, this compilation video, and pointed out that the language Rogan has used around race in the past is just as, or maybe even more problematic than his rhetoric about vaccines. We know Rogan's show is known for its fresh and frank.
So this, you know, he's an anti-vaccine person, and there is a high chance that this was used to as a smear campaign to silence that belief and stuff. Nevertheless, you know, we're still going to analyze the video.
And unvarnished conversations. That's why his fans like the show. But this compilation, this use of the N-word so many times in the past may be too much, even for some of his defenders to bear. But here is, in Rogan's own words, part of his apology today.
I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out. It's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now.
That means his views have now changed for some reason.
I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I never used it to be racist because I'm not racist, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you f***ed up. And I clearly have f***ed up.
Yes,
yeah, I mean, Brian
clearly has.
Yeah, he clearly has, and you and I both know that compilation right there, which he has admitted to is you know, authentic. That would be enough to put anybody out of a job. I mean, to me, it seems untenable to have that kind of video surface, that kind of compilation surface, and keep one's job. But Brian, there's another video that Patriot Takes put out.
There's another video. So this is actually probably more severe. That one, you know, you could argue whatever context you want to give, but this one was a more severe one that just came out.
Which I also want to play. It's a story Joe Rogan is telling of when he went to see what he describes as the Planet of the Apes. It's awful, but let's just show it and then talk about it.
App. And it says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I goes, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to see Planet of the Apes. We walked into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people.
And Rogan addressed this in his video as well. What did he have to say about that?
Yes, that's right. You know, these are multiple examples of offensive content on his podcast that he's trying to apologize for at the same time. Here's what he said about this part.
I did not, nor would I ever say that black people are apes, but it sure sounded like that.
It really did. Oh, yes.
And I immediately afterwards said, that's a racist thing to say.
That makes it better.
Planet of the Apes wasn't even in Africa. I was just saying.
Nope, no, it wasn't.
There's a lot of black people there.
So something we're going to start as well is when you look at the Jewish community, some of the things people say towards them that isn't best pleasing, before it even gets to a severe nature or whether it was better or not, they shut things down. There's a practice we have to study where sometimes we're going to be arguing if some race is really that racist, where it's like, when someone ticks a certain amount of boxes, just to disconnect from them might be in the best interest of black people, regardless of whether they right or wrong or right, or whatever it might be. Just a codified way of behaving that works in the best interest of black people. So you always defended. Something to think about.
I mean,
So
Brian, a lot of this is about
again,
money.
Trying to diffuse this. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Trying to diffuse this, Jim, and whether it's going to work is anybody's guess. We've been reaching out to Spotify, asking for comment. Spotify promotes itself as just a platform, where anybody can put up their podcast. But with Rogan, they're paying Rogan tens and tens of millions of dollars, reportedly $100 million for exclusive rights to his content, including these old episodes full of him using the N-word. Now, listeners have noticed that several dozen episodes have been taken down. Apparently, those are the episodes that we've heard clips.
All right, so we looked at
so Spotify
some of the
like Spotify getting
would be enough for somebody to lose their job.
Many examples, including in Hollywood and entertainment, and so quiet. At the same time, I want to recognize the reasons why Rogan has lots of fans, millions.
Blah blah blah.
Apology video, a profanity-laced apology video.
What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the people defending Rogan. So there's one or two. There we go. Here's the first. This is a UFC fighter. Excuse the strong language. I couldn't beep it out. I probably could, to be honest, but I didn't. But it's 10 o'clock, so okay. Late night language. All right.
Joe Rogan. There's been a lot of controversy with him.
First off, let me take this one. Hold up. I'm black. I can take this one. Look.
It's already. This is this. I'm black. I can take this. Already, this like eagerness to use one's blackness to defend non-black people when it comes to practicing racism and become a shield. I mean, we see a lot when I used to go speakers corner, funny enough, but this is something that we need to really call out and educate black people on, just how to get on code and how to really make better choices when you're in the media. But let's see what he says.
Look.
Okay. What were
There's a lot of cunts in this game. There's a lot of snakes in this game. I've been in this fight game since 2008, and Joe Rogan is one of the nicest, coolest, humble.
Once again, the thing is, everyone's nice, everyone's cool, but you have to do things that's in your best interest. You have to look a bit deeper than that. Like I said, even if someone was wrong, you come together to establish what needs to be done to correct them. What can someone do to rectify this? And just outwardly defending these comments about monkeys and the N-word, this kind of stuff. I need to really review that, my friend, but let's carry on.
Motherfuckers, I've had the pleasure.
Obviously, you see the fans, you tell them black man, because once the black man gives the permission, then the silent non-black people can really cheer and do backflips and throw popcorn. Good stuff. Entertaining. That's what it is.
Of working with. Understand that. Hey, it's just, fuck the noise, man. You know what they're trying to do. You can't control the man, and he's got the biggest platform in the world right now. So that's my nigga, Joe Rogan. Fuck.
Yeah. So once again, error-prone behavior. That's my, okay. I mean, but we're going to actually review this, brother, because once again, there's pan perception that we need to go through. And we shall analyze him and see if we can connect the dots, if that's what we can do, because black people are collectively inadequate, so we need to have strategies. All right, let's go.
Fuck the noise.
Cheer for him. Very proud, very, very good. There's certain films you can see on the slave part where that kind of head movement and proudful speak comes. It seems to have gone for many generations. Let's carry on.
Going off that, what words of advice would you give to Joe Rogan to shut out all the noise around him?
Do what I said. Fuck the noise. Just keep doing you, Joe. Have some mushrooms. Keep doing you.
There you go. That's the black intellect there. Error prone. Oh yes. High error prone and proud. All right. Let's go. What we're dealing with now. So that was obviously one Joe Rogan defender. What else we got here? This is all right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna because we're gonna bring it to UK context as well, because obviously we have our fair share of this behavior as well. And obviously a few months back, or maybe 3 months back, we showed Liam Nielsen. For those who haven't seen it, we'll show it again. But basically, there was an unfortunate accident, not accident, but unfortunate what do you call it? Assault that happened on a good friend of his, and it's he was obviously traumatized with this, and he reacted in a way that was unacceptable. And he documented this, he chronicalized it in some video. And what we're going to analyze is obviously him another video of him speaking about a similar situation but slightly different tone. We're not trying to work out why. And then obviously the error-prone, unsynchronized black people who jump in the defense of European white people when it comes to these kinds of behaviors. So let's carry on listening. Well, we're getting there. A bit long, but there's a reason for it. Go!
I'll tell you a story. This is true. I'm not going to use any names, but I was away and I came back and she told me she had been raped, but she handled the situation of the rape in the most extraordinary way. But my immediate reaction was, I asked, did she know who it was? No. What color were they? She said it was a black person. I went up and down areas with a cosh, hoping I'd be approached by somebody. I'm ashamed to say that. And I did it for maybe a week, hoping some black bastard.
So that word there. So remember, this is in the context. So he's thinking back of when his friend was assaulted or raped or sexually abused by a person who was described as black. And he's now just said he's hoping that a black bastard will come out the pub. His words. But what I'm saying is, obviously, the way he is speaking, he obviously is speaking from a current point where he's looking back. So obviously, that word would have made more context back then when he was actually practicing racism, according to him. But for him to use it now is interesting because he's using it in the current, thinking back, which is something that probably went by many black people.
Would come out of a pub and have a go at me about something, so that I could.
Another thing to realize that one black person allegedly raped a woman, and black people as a collective have to suffer. This is something that you need to understand, that many anti-black racists or just non-black people in general, they do see you as like a monolith, and touch one, touch all this kind of stuff, or touch them, all this kind of stuff. So black people don't tend to think like that anymore. They've been trained not to do that, but know that people who are competing against you do, and this is demonstrating that. Any black person will do. Revenge is satisfied. This happened with the lynchings back in America and throughout the Caribbean, this kind of stuff.
Kill him.
You want to kill him? That's what I want to do.
And it took me a week, maybe a week and a half to kind of go for that.
All right.
And she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm just going out for a walk."
So for over 2 weeks, or I think it was, he was pretty much walking down the street for caution for black people. And this is the man, he's looking to take them. That's what he does, where he takes people in all these famous franchises. He's looking to take black people to avenge his lady friend's honor for the raping, which is never good. But you touch a white woman in this particular part of town, and you have melanin in your skin, everyone must suffer. So this is a historical practice.
What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. It was horrible when I think back, but I did that, and I've never admitted that to.
You should have kept it yourself, but thank you for letting us know.
I'm saying it to a journalist. God forbid.
Holy shit.
It's awful. But I did learn a lesson from it.
What lesson did you learn?
When I eventually thought, what the fuck are you doing,
How many black people did you punch before you realized that? They didn't say.
And I come from a society, I grew up in Northern Ireland in the Troubles, and I knew a couple of guys that died on hunger strike, and I had acquaintances that were very caught up in the Troubles. And I understand that need for revenge, but it just leads to more revenge and more killing and more killing. Ireland, Northern Ireland is proof of that,
Right. Yeah.
All the stuff that's happening in the world.
There you go, violence.
Proof
now,
of
what we're going to do, we're now going to look at, let's skip that. There's another situation, obviously, with the Me Too movement, this kind of stuff in America at the moment. To be honest, all over the world, to be honest. But obviously, this is where women have been harassed by men, raped by men in the working environment. And obviously, at a certain point, many of the women weren't best pleased, and they said enough is enough, and they decided to come together to try to stop this act from happening. Let's see his opinion on this. Let's see if his his stories and tales and chronicles are similar. Let's go back. All right, let's have a sneak. Just analyzing. That's what we're doing. It's analyzing.
Yes, there is a bit of a witch hunt happening too.
In what sense?
A witch hunt. Interesting. He's never practiced that before, has he?
There's some people, famous people, being suddenly accused of touching some girl's knee or something, and suddenly they're being dropped from their program or something.
Is that what they do?
Garrison Keillor, I don't know if you know who he is.
Radio sort of star, yeah.
Extraordinary writer and radio star. I was reading recently about him, and he was listening to a sad story from a female friend of his. And at the end of this, he put his hand to her back like this to,
consult.
As you do.
And she had a blouse on, and it was her bare back.
Yes, I mean, these things happen. The wind changing, the atmosphere, the night. Just things happen. Oh gosh.
I don't know what the blouse was like.
Okay.
And he immediately took his hand away and apologized.
As you should do, I guess. Yes.
And she said, "Don't worry about it. Forget about it."
Well, there you go. It's all done. It's all on the bridge.
Anyway, they went their separate ways. He emailed her because he was concerned. Apparently, he has a thing about physical touching.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
Well, that's what happens, isn't it? Men like touching women. It's a thing.
Physical intimacy.
Yeah, of course.
And she said, "Forget about it. Don't worry about it."
Yeah,
Months later, he gets a call from a lawyer.
Oh dear.
Or his radio station does, Minnesota Public Radio, saying he inappropriately touched this lady.
Sounds like that way, the way you describe it. Maybe he didn't.
And he was dropped.
Well, yes. Well, if he did, that's probably what they would do, I assume. But maybe I'm missing.
And yet, there's the other side of things.
There's the Harvey Weinstein stuff, which is
Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman.
Kevin too. The Dustin Hoffman thing.
Where's the kosh? Where's the witch hunt? So what I'm saying is the body movement. It's very different. Obviously, maybe it was a part, and whatever it is. But it seems to be a very similar-esque situation, and the demeanor is different. When the black people is not being named, but I'm probably reading into it. Maybe I'm not. Who knows? Whatever. So what we're going to do? Obviously, we're going to parallel this with what's currently going on, and we're going to see obviously the ever prone and proud behavior that's going to happen. So let's go.
You're in two minds about that.
Now, what I want you to do is when you
people go be healthy,
treat it.
Here we go. Back. What I want you to do is I want you to see when black people are defending people who practice racism, and I want you to see the supreme pride. You'll never see this kind of pride in black economics or black life. Oh no, you'll see hate and distrust. But when it comes to defending openly practicing racism, you'll see, and it's almost like it's a performance. It's performative. It's proud, and yes, and what they do, they become the shields. And what happens if a black person is saying this person's not racist? It then heavily undermines anything else because why would a black person say this? Blah blah blah, this kind of stuff. So, but you have to look at the performative. Just look at how it is and the proudness. So it's error prone and proud. Let's get to there we go. Your big man John Barnes. So this after all these kind of race Kosh witch hunt beating black people in Ireland came out, and we showed it before, but we're going to show it again. This is John Barnes, and we should see if there's any parallels with this and the MMA brother. Go.
John Barnes, welcome to you. Was this somebody being incredibly candid about an awful
Now I want you to look at the power and conviction of John Barnes. Very important.
moment in their life, or is this beyond the pale?
Well, first of all, I just want you to give me a few minutes because I believe that Liam Neeson deserves a medal.
Okay, that really is a comedy show, but I mean, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, this is like hyperbole gone mad. Yeah, so a man is talking about beating black people in a witch hunt and this kind of thing, and John Barnes is gone straight to the medal. This is a man who's played in the World Cup, hasn't won any, but he understands about winning medals and this kind of stuff, and he's literally saying that for the man beating black people and this kind of thing. Medal. All right, John Barnes.
And I'll tell you why.
Please do. Please tell me why.
Liam Neeson, I've listened to the whole transcript. Liam Neeson was talking about his film Revenge, and he's talking about revenge doesn't do anyone any good. He mentions the fact that being brought up in Northern Ireland, he understands how destructive that can be. He went on to tell a story of a situation whereby a friend of his had been raped. Now, if you listen to everything he's talking about in the moment, and you can't blame Liam Neeson for thinking what he feels, because this is a while ago, this is what society has shown him that black people do, Muslims do. This is what society has wrongly shown him. This is what the media have.
So what we have to do as well, we have to also study Jewish people, because they do it more correctly. You won't get a Jewish person doing this when not at all, not one bit, where they really try to pick at straws and create narratives to defend. It's the world. It's, the world made them the way they are. Like, you see Hitler. No, he was abused as a child and this kind of stuff. You won't really get that, because they're better at doing things that's in Jewish people's best interest. And this is the learning, because black people are collectively inadequate currently. We have to learn from this and try to better ourselves. And obviously we have to expose and train the error-prone behavior. And obviously now it's become prideful and full of pride and panache when error proneness is being practiced. So what we're going to do, because he's going to go, we'll give him a few more minutes just to express his passionate about why this is a good thing.
Wrongly portrayed to him. So in that moment, he said for a week, he was going around looking to
only a week. Oh gosh.
Kill a black person or a black, and he did that in quotation marks.
Right, yeah, black monster.
Now, what he actually went on to say is that he was ashamed and horrified by.
That's good. Well, that's great.
By the way he felt.
Oh yeah.
Yes. He's not ashamed and horrified in wanting to commit the act of revenge. He's ashamed and horrified because that is what he thought about all black people.
Now, what I want to look is this is a trained behavior, and sometimes we might get enraged, and I want us to identify as error prone, but understand that this unsynchronized behavior that many black people practice, it's within the system we live in. We're trained. Most of the videos I do have been taken off, but you'll see me debating many black people. When I talk about black love and black economics, you'll see them throwing chairs and things in the air and swearing and becoming enthralled with rage and fury. And this is also trained as well. We also have to look at parallels and perceptions and patterns. Very important, because when we do that, we can reverse engineer what's happening in the mind of many of these brothers and sisters, or just completely separate them from any kind of importance. But we have to be aware of it, and it will continue until we really understand what's going on. Now,
after a week, he realized he was wrong.
I get the other bit ready.
That is what he said. I'm ashamed and horrified of the way I felt. Now, depending on how you want to spin this story, now it's about he was going to kill a black person.
Now, what you're going to realize as well is it's also something to study as well, is the fury of it. It's like, how dare you bring up this video of this taken individual taking black people to kosh them and witches and this kind of stuff. How dare you even question? But when you look at other community groups, you'll see a much more softer approach. Like, I understand something's gone wrong and things happen, but but this is like proper defense. I've got the shield for you. Fight to the end. Now, what we're gonna do, just to make it make more sense, we're gonna look at patterns. I'm not saying what I'm saying is right or wrong, but pattern perception is important. So we're gonna go back to the where is it? The PDF of Power. Oh yeah. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at certain things. So as you saw, the Rock brother, he is a brother of African American and I think Samoa. No, Samoa, I believe. Two Afro producing nations. Not too sure Samoa see themselves as African at all, but for some reason they have Afros. Anyway, these are the two wives of the Rock. Not saying anything. We're looking at patterns of perception. Yeah, okay, that's what we're doing. Just gonna go deeper. Boom, boom, boom. But could be wrong. Very good acting, brother. Wish him well, the 20 million, all that kind of stuff he makes per movie. Like it, good. That's Dwayne Johnson. So we saw him twice defend what was it, brother? He defended Hulk Hogan. Obviously, they worked together on WrestleMania, this kind of stuff. And obviously Joe Rogan. Don't know how they work together, but they know each other. Maybe bodybuilding or something like this. Who knows? But they know each other, right? Little pattern there. None of these women are of African American or Samoan background. Could be wrong, but I don't think I am. All right. Now let's move on. Voila. This is the MMA brother, the guy who was fighting, error prone and proud. You're my N-word. Joe Rogan. All that good stuff. There was perception that he might be a same gender loving person. This could be just I'm not the greatest Colombo researcher. I would say he probably isn't. If he was, he would probably be for European man as they're proposing. But this is allegedly a girlfriend of his. Could be wrong, but this is what I've seen. I haven't seen any picture of him with any sisters, but I'm sure they exist in some land, in some dimension, maybe on the interweb of some kind, maybe like the new kind of, the new futuristic web that they're making at the moment, whatever it is. So who knows? But there you go. So that's this little perception. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. And what do I know? But why do we do this? Who knows? And then I'll say we don't need to see this picture, but we know that brother John Barnes, amazing football player. He's also got some bars and raps that's very, very skillful and technical. And this individual, he's been married twice, and both have been Europeans. Now, this doesn't mean anything. This doesn't necessarily mean that the things we're saying is right or wrong. But there is a pan perception. Like when we see these strong outcries for defending people who might be perceived as white supremacists or racists or just anti-black in any kind of way, and you get the black shields who jump in, the error-prone and proud kind of behavior. It's like, how do we know which end of the pitch they kick in for? We don't know. But what we can do is we can analyze the path and think, okay, well, if you've been married twice and they're both to Europeans, then we understand that there's definitely a European kind of love, which is it happens. People love this, love that, love this. You get divorced, love again, same thing. All this kind of stuff. But the thing is, this is the kind of defense mechanism that black people need to have. I know this is going to sound very shocking, very shocking. Very, very shocking indeed, and very controversial as well. But I think if we keep on getting people who harm black people constantly, and we keep on getting black people who jump in defending them with error-prone and proud, and all these people have the same patterns, meaning multiple marriages to Europeans, the same kind of behavior, we might have to make a rule, and this is going to be shocking. We shouldn't probably dare not say this loud, but if you are not married to a black person, or you are married to a non-black person, or you have no interest in black economics or black love at all, you haven't practiced at all, then you might be disqualified from actually having an opinion on black issues. You might not be able to be a black custodian. So let's see if we got that word there. Very interesting word. Let's see I hope I have it in there because it's such a beautiful word. I usually have it here. There's another one. Black Love Campaign. Very nice. Voila. Unity spend. Look at that good stuff. Voila. Where are we? Once again, for those who look at the screen, we have the pattern perception. These are all the UK politicians, and just by chance, they all have European wives and blonde and blue eyes. That's the type. And this is fine. You love who you love, all this kind of stuff. But what we realize is people argue that none of the black politicians do anything for black people. Is there a pattern there? Who knows? Okay, we should carry on. And all this was actually the Supreme Court. Same pattern again. Black people not necessarily picking black husbands or black wives, but it is what it is. This is not anything. There is no controversial thing here. Unsynchronized with black Betterment. Here we go. Custodians. Who are the custodians of black people? Very important word. What we're establishing is who should be speaking on black issues. So when people go on TV and they mistreat black people, if a person steps up and they've had back-to-back non-black wives and husbands, then they might not qualify. Just an idea. Maybe they're disqualified, and maybe we need to make that code. Like, the thing is, there's a lot of you guys who constantly jumping up defending anti-black behavior, and this is the pattern. Like So what is it? So this is the thing. Could be controversial, but what I'm going to do, because I'm a nice guy, I'm going to send out the fantastic link. Where is that link? There we go. Lobby. Voila. Link. Copy and paste. Don't be a sloppy waste. Put that in there. All right. Boom, boom, boom. So everyone, feel jump in. Today's topic is you have to so much stuff to slide through. Give me 17 seconds, everyone. 17 seconds. All right, so much thing. I should have a button to go there. That's why we go past all the fantastic pictures. Are black people collectively too forgiving towards anti-black racism? This is what we have brought some ideas. One thing I was going to bring up as well, it's kind of connected, but kind of not. It is and it isn't. There was an individual West Ham guy from Central Congo, or Central Africa, I should say, and he did something. We kicked the cat. You shouldn't do that. Cats are wonderful creatures. Don't kick them. They're not footballs. But he did it, and he's plays for West Ham, a team I grew up supporting, for he kicked the cat, which is wrong, and I think it came on some kind of show, or whatever. And obviously everyone's angry at him and this kind of stuff. And obviously the way it's been framed, it has been framed in a forgiving way. He didn't know, like you see with these kind of anti-racist, framed a very different way. He's bad, spank him, all this kind of stuff. And maybe he should be. But, I was going to, do a bit of research, and once again, very dark-skinned brother. So naturally, playing football, dark-skinned brother. He's got a white wife or white girlfriend. Yeah, it is what it is. But what I'm saying, patterns again, not patterns, all patterns. It seems to go the same way. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an extremist. Maybe I'm very stupid. Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, so I'll put the link out there, everyone. I think I have. Have I? I think I have. So feel free to jump in. Would be good to get your opinion about this. Is this something you've observed yourself? About are black people too forgiving? On the picture there, you also have this European rapper called Dappy. A few months or years back, I think he made a song where the N-word is flying left, right, center. And there's a few white guys in the UK as well who are actually very comfortable spewing the N-word. A lot of them have black friends who allow this to happen. You say, you're amongst your brothers and kin here. Just everyone's welcome to these words. Say what you want. I would like to study that. Like all the rappers whose friends are open about them practicing the N-word in their songs. I need to see who they're dating, if they actually themselves are dating Europeans or non-black women or non-black men, this kind of stuff. Just for pattern perception, because I'm connecting dots and something's happening there. Maybe I'm mad. Maybe I'm like those crazy guys on those movie films where they start seeing pictures and numbers everywhere. And maybe I'm not. I don't know. Help me out, people. Help me out. Welcome, brother Kel. Welcome, brother Kel. We've got a quick question. What about Diane Abbott? Any of the family can fill me in. I don't know if she's. I think she went out with that guy who's the guy who everyone liked. I forgot his name, white guy, but I'm not too sure what she's doing. But that's her business. But anyway, we're gonna say welcome to brother Kel. Welcome back, brother Kel. How's it going?
How you doing, brother Raven? Yeah, it's been one hell of a week, man. But at least on political science, we can unite again, my brother. How's things, man?
Yeah. I mean, it's in a good place. This week, where the main thing that's I don't know if it's this week, but there's an individual called Joe Rogan who video started circulating of him calling black people monkeys and this kind of stuff. And what I wanted to do was literally something we've done before, but it's to ask a question: do you feel that black people might be very forgiving towards people who practice white supremacy, anti-black racism towards black people? And what we're looking at is error-prone behavior. But I was highlighting the error-prone and proud, where black people really defend racism and really become the shield in a media sense. And I guess depacitate or whatever it is all the energy from actually analyzing what is happening, because they then become the front face of don't hurt my friend, whatever. That's the name. Sorry, she dated Jeremy Corbyn back in the day. Yeah, she did. I mean, I'm not here to look at people's love lives. Do what you want, people. But what I'm saying is, if a black person is coming on public places and openly defending racism, and the pattern is all these people have never chosen a black partner ever, then this is a pattern we need to be aware of, because maybe this is a defense mechanism where we can say, oh, hold on, there is a ruling that if you're going to defend racism against black people or undermine black love or anything like this, or black economics, do you have a black partner ever? Are you married? If you're married, who are you married to? Now it sounds you're kind of butting into people's private life, but because black people are, as we push it forward, collectively inadequate, we're very sensitive, and we need to do what the European Jews do, where they have institutions and they have certain things they don't want to hear, and if they hear it, they shut it down. So something that we think about. I could be wrong, it is what it is. But anyway, brother Kel, any thoughts on this kind of topic?
Yeah, we definitely are very contradictory as a people, because in one hand, we love everybody else, but at the same time, we're supposed to love ourselves first. It's a tricky one, and how do we kind of balance the two sides? Because contradiction is part of life. Yeah. But when we look at it in our survival, what we're going through, it needs to be balanced. And there's one thing I do agree with you: we have to have like a blueprint and tactics of when we're around non-synchronized Africans, that we don't attack them personally. We just attack the unsynchronized lifestyle they're living. Definitely, brother. When you do go in an unsynchronized relationship, remember we was talking about the order marks, the disciplinary that we need to use on our people when we, are not when we're not synchronized. Well,
Yeah.
when you go out of your race, you've lost your privilege to speak on our community. It's an automatically order mark. So if we can campaign that interracial dating, order mark, a white supremacist mindset in your religion, order mark, socialism as it pertains to the agenda of the non-Africans, except for ours, order mark again, gender movements as it pertains to having the non-Africans at best interest, order mark, and the list goes on. But definitely, brother, you definitely should get an order mark of keep your mouth closed when it comes to our liberation, order mark straight away, and a disciplinary.
Interesting there. Interesting. Very, 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 very true there. Hold on. Let me. Yeah, we got that there. Yeah. So for those in, let's see if there's any comments that people wanted. I see people seem to be talking about Jeremy Corbyn, this kind of stuff now. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. Any comments, anyone let us know. Also, family, feel free to jump in at the time we are talking about are black people collectively too forgiving towards anti-black racism or anti-black racist. Yeah, it's something we do see a pattern in, and I think Brother Kel's right, and I think that it is the concept of the show that we never want to be picking on black people, because the issue is a lot of this stuff isn't natural. It is. I was actually watching a documentary. I was watching a documentary about a Jewish death camp, this week, and I think one of the survivors of the was a kid at the time. I think she openly forgave the Nazis, and this was just a no-no. Like they were all upset. They were not happy at all. No, especially so many of the people who were actually working on the actual death camps and this kind of stuff got away and weren't arrested. So the forgiving this was a no-no, and I think that's another thing that black people are very trained to forgive straight, and many non-black people do not forgive black actions. They don't really do that. Like you start seeing parallels of behavior patterns. So sometimes we forget about it, and sometimes you have to really put things under the microscope to really see the parallels. So, for example, if I could give an example, when Black Lives Matter came out, the slogan, this kind of stuff, automatically there was White Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. But when Stop Asian Hate came out, it was what it was. And also in America at the time, they were passing laws to prevent Asian people from being attacked. So sometimes we don't see those two parallels. We're too busy looking in the other direction. But one thing that's very important, and I think it's something that we need to stick up more places, and that is collectively, black people have no friends. Very good message there. I think there's so yeah. I'm glad you agree, Brother Kel. This is something if we get T-shirts made for this, if we can put on posters. Maybe on the show, I need to plaster it on top of maybe see you got it in the show. Maybe plaster it all Mac on the top. I think this is the thing, and the reason why I say that is because as you've seen, all these jumping in unsynchronized behavior of defending anti-black racism and this kind of behavior, this is a no-no. And obviously it's been learned, and that was the point we're trying to say, that it's been learned. We're going to welcome everyone. Empress Kushti, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have you. Always a pleasure to have you. Oh, just make sure your mic is on.
Family.
There you go.
Bless up. Bless up, Brother Raven. Bless up, Brother Cal. Bless up to everybody in chat.
Thank you for joining. It's always a privilege. Always a privilege. So you jumped in straight. So you can jump in when you like. But anything you would like to add so far? Any observations? Anything you want to mention before we move
on? Yeah, I'm definitely agree with everything that got said so far. It's just when you make the correlation between the Jewish community and what we just saw for members of our community, you see a very big difference and how we should be acting accordingly. So I definitely agree with that.
I mean, Have you ever noticed yourself with when anti-racism is practiced towards black people, you might get certain black members really jumping in with pride. So it's almost like an anger. So if we can analyze it now, just let me put it on the thing.
That is not what I.
So
Put them there.
let's go to where's
white people.
So here's
Put them upset would be.
There's
so if we look at the panache, the anger, the this very error prone and proud.
The question
I see it's quite consistently.
for you around Joe Rogan. There's been a lot of controversy with him.
First off, let me take this one. Hold up. I'm black. I can take this one. Look.
Already there. I'm black. Let me take this. So already what they're doing, they're using their blackness, the media blackness, to create like a cyclone of everything is gonna absorb onto me. I'm gonna defend it, and I have the right because I'm qualified. So anything that's wrong, I'm gonna nullify it. That's what I get from that.
Absolutely. I'm going to sound off of this because I'm going to keep saying it until I see it manifest. We do not have our own defense league. So because we don't have that, this guy's going to randomly step up and say, I am the voice of black people, and I'm going to take this one for Massa. You know what I mean? It's just like, wow. Yeah. Whereas if we had somebody who was already, if we had different points or not just one, because I definitely think we need more than one. History said that. I definitely think there needs to be a code, but in being a code, I definitely think there should be representation, just like what we've seen on the previous show that we did. And those people should be the people that you go to. So people like this understand that he needs to just stick with entertainment and boxing. Or UFC or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You cannot say I'm black, so I'm now going to speak on this and then take it for him as well. Yeah. What are you taking for him? Why?
Yeah, this is
it's crazy.
No off code. Doesn't work in anyone's best interest apart from non-black people.
Yeah, she's absolutely right, brother Raven. Because I was some time back. If there was like a declaration in America, they've got like the commandments, the fifth, and etc. If there was like a template, that if we were to, for example, let's say Brother Dino Kai becomes like an MP, for example, right, and we fund him because that's what we're gonna have to do. For example, I'm just saying, right? Then perhaps in the declaration it could be we don't want those who are not conforming to the blueprint as it pertains to an interracial relationship to be speaking on our behalf. Because if we don't do that, brother, what's going to happen is that the non-Africans will capitalize on, they're so divided, and they will take the less a threat to them as the blueprint. So we do need that something as a declaration. If we can't get that, then what I do propose as a strategic blueprint is that when we are boycotting those who say the N-word, then we also at the same time boycott those who are in an interracial relationship as well. So for example, with Joe Rogan, right, he said that we boycott that, and any African descendant who is with a non-African person and they're speaking on their behalf, it's like boycotting Rogan and boycotting the unsynchronized African at the same time. That will make them think before they speak while they're getting attacked at the same time.
What I try to do, and it's a shame because most of the videos I do this and they take it off the internet, but what I try to do is this concept of rule sets, and I always use veganism as an analogy. It's very, very handy. And it's like this concept of people who want to speak against, issues that work in black people's best interest, and you'd be very, very, a very anti-black man, black woman, or whatever. And then you have a person like me say, well, can you be a vegan and eat beef? If you go to a restaurant, can you say what menu 2? What is that? Would the person say, oh, that's a half a vegan meal? These things already exist. You either are or you aren't in certain situations, and I think when it comes to picking people who do publicly speak, as a culture, we should go, well, you know what? I'm probably not best to speak on this because I'm not practicing any kind of massive style of life that correlates or concludes within the collective. Like there's certain principles that if I was to be put on a pedestal, I would fall short. And I think one of the if you are going to be married, if you're not a nun and this kind of stuff, and you're going to be married, uh, picking constructive black man with constructive black woman, there is no better way of of a community building. There's some of the economics, all good stuff, but let's say you find yourself not practicing that. Fair enough. You then first of all wouldn't be speaking on any kind of real major issues, and you should even by not practicing still promote that as a concept. Like even though I don't practice this for whatever reason, I openly state that a constructive black man, a constructive black woman, make a constructive black house or family. Blah blah blah. Let me see. Let's see what some comments here. But before we see the comments, welcome Sister Tash, very important contributor. Welcome.
Big up, big up. Can I just make it? Oh, I'll let you go. I just wanted to make a quick point.
I haven't read this, but there's been watching Rogue for some time. I remember for some time. I remember this period of time where he was desperately wanted to use the word over and over again, almost like it was flexing his muscles at the height of his power. Yeah, the thing is, before Sister Tash jumps in, one thing I noticed about many non-black people. And we need to have a way of wording things to shut that stuff down. But it's this concept like, oh, you guys have something I don't have. Like you allowed to call each other the N word, and we can't call you guys the N word. And what you really want to highlight is you go, okay, go on. You have permission to call black people the N word. Go on then, because that's what they want to do, right? And then you want to say something like, what I recommend is what you want to highlight. What was that word I said the other day? When someone's out there, yeah. It's basically they ignorant black people will say something. They want the rights that ignorant black people have, right? So you want to really highlight the ignorance that's been there, and also challenge them. Okay, we'll say that because what you want is you want to say the N word to black people. So say that. Do you know what I mean? Really challenge that. But before I go, let me just make sure. How do you promote what you don't practice? I still think that they should keep their views to themselves. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. This is a question. How do you promote what you do not practice? Very good point. What I say is sometimes you're going to have people who are error prone, meaning they might be on a very strong kind of drug. They might be unfortunately intoxicated with alcohol. They might be abusing people, whatever. This needs to stop. We need to correct this. However, what we have unfortunately in the black community and quite widespread in certain areas is benchmark rebranding, where someone is doing something that is error prone and they rebrand it in the point where it's actually cool. There's a reason, blah blah blah. What I'm saying is, even though you're not doing something that is in black people's best interest, still promote that. The reason why these practices are very important, they correlate with why I start the show by saying that black people are collectively inadequate, is by actually analyzing the truth and saying these things, right? Once you say it, you will automatically in your mind build the process of moving towards that. So it's very hard for a human being to say, I'm actually doing wrong. Because if you believe you're doing wrong, then you will seek betterment. But what we do is we benchmark, rebrand, when we say, actually, I'm not wrong, the world's wrong, or actually, I flipped upside down and it was once meaning this and that means that, and all this kind of confusion. So that's the motivation behind why people should articulate, even though they're not practicing something, they understand it is a better way. You know, it's just psychological. But anyway, let's let Sister Tash has joined, so let her speak, and then we just go from there.
Yeah, big up everyone. No, I was just gonna say, I'm not 100% confident that it's about forgiveness. I think with John Barnes and this American guy, I think it's a lack of self-awareness and consciousness that they have an issue with, right? Because the reality is, if John Barnes is a black man, and he could have been that guy that came out of the pub and Liam saw, and whether he's married or whether he's in an environment where he's around white people, because that is John Barnes's environment, he still is a black man. So he could have fallen victim to Liam's anger on that day. So I'm not 100% convinced that it's about forgiveness. And also, we have to also be aware of these media platforms that they're using. They have a narrative that they want to hold on to.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's not really about forgiveness. It's more a case of these guys are dare I say, I think one in particular is sold out, unfortunately, and he's too far gone, but he still is black, and he can still fall victim to this same kind of racism. So yeah. And I don't think we really get to choose. This is the problem with these conglomerate media stations that are right-wing, left-wing owned. We don't really get to choose who represents us. But I think what you're doing a really important thing by showing that's excellent. The excellent breakdown of Liam when he was talking about the Me Too, when the women were getting the men were going into their personal space and possibly abusing them. That was very, very interesting. So it just goes to show how disingenuous and how racist he is. Because really, I mean, Liam asked, well, what colour was the guy that raped you? Why do you need to ask that?
Yeah.
That's because you were looking for it.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I just wanted to make that.
Very, very much.
Make my
And
points.
thanks for yours. I think Empress Kush wanted to jump in as well. Am I right, Empress? Am I wrong?
Yeah. Always on the ball, Brother Raven. I just want to say though, good to see you, Sister Tash. I'm just gonna leave it there. But I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, big up your sis.
Big up sis. But there was a few points I wanted to say. There's so much points I wanted to say, but on the back of what Sister Sosa said about her questions, I just want to raise a point to the family. Dave Chappelle comes to mind just randomly because probably because of the Rogan thing, right? Because I've heard that Rogan apparently was on his skits earlier on, when he was doing his great skits and stuff on the Chappelle show. I don't remember him, so he wasn't that great, and I don't think he was there that much. But apparently this Rogan guy has continuously, like even publicly, asked for him to come on his show, and he's never gone, which says something. Now, I feel that what I have seen so far, Dave Chappelle is definitely on code, but Dave Chappelle is not with a black woman.
No, you're right.
And he's been with her for ages. They've got two kids. The kids that he's been a great husband to her. I'll just leave it there. But yeah, so he's for me, he's like a good character for what he is, right? He's a comedian, but I feel that what he does outreach, what he does apart from his career, I don't feel that it's necessarily what was the words that you was using, bro, when you do the numbers? No, prone. I don't think he's error prone in regards to how he acts, right? And he's a great example because we're always talking about what it looks like, and I think he's a good example. Even when I sit and I'm gonna say right now that I'm actually I like him. Yeah, I'm a fan of his work. I like it when he does his skits. So I'm sure that yourself and Brother Kel and Tash is going to come in. But I just think this is an interesting example to use because even when I watch his shows, he doesn't necessarily always chuck it in our face. He mentions that he has a woman outside the race, but I think he does that. I think there's a reason why he does that, and I don't think he's in an error-prone way when he does that. But when he's referring to black women, when he's talking about relationships with black women, I think they're very genuine in an African American sense, and I never think that he's ever bringing down black women. No. And in regards to what's happening globally, or in regards to the diaspora, when it happens. What happens to black people, he speaks out about it. For example, when he did what happened to Brother George Floyd happened, I don't know if anyone saw it, but I remember seeing what he did after he did the show, and I remember him talking about it and feeling like, I'm a comedian, I don't know if I should do this, but he felt that the people were waiting for him. They were waiting for him to talk on their behalf. They were waiting for him to talk in only how he can, and express what the people felt in the way that he does it, in a raw way, in a way that people appreciate for his art, right? So I'm not saying that he's a speaker or a leader or anything like that, but I'm just using him as an example of one individual who I think is doing it well. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there and see what people think about that.
Well, let me go ahead, Cole. Oh well, let me say, Nicole could jump in after. So for me, the individual actions of the person, I tend to not judge. It's more of like a collective pattern perception. But what we would say is, if we're aware that many black men who don't marry black women might be more prone to undermine black progress, that means that if you're one person who's doing such things, whatever, the community will look at you in a certain way. So you have to be extra careful. Just like all the black artists who've said horrible, allegedly horrible things towards the Jewish community, they have to be extra careful when they speak now because they've really got one kind of strike. So the way I see it is with Dave Chappelle, I think he's married to I think Filipino lady. I can't remember. But the thing is, he listens to a whole lot of conscious people. He's very conscious in the things he does. He's in the economic game. He's really good. Much can be learned, and also he had a big learning where he realized that some of his jokes were being used against him, and then he went to Africa to recoup and find himself. So there's a lot of behavioral patterns that seem to work really well. But that doesn't undermine the template, and the template is constructed black man, constructed black woman. Go on, brother Kel.
Yeah,
Of course, Brother Raven.
Based on the principles of Pan-Africanism, Garveyism, unfortunately, those are going to be very disappointing. What I'm about to say, but David Chappelle is very error-prone. When you understand his background, his mother is a brilliant Pan-Africanist, educated, brilliant woman, as well as his father. And he's only been able to speak that way because of his parents' political background. And unfortunately, if everything in life, is political, and you can campaign it good or bad, then David Chappelle, who removed his comedic talent, is definitely a wrong. For example, the amount of times he promotes the N-word on his show, he's definitely campaigning for the non-Africans to use that word. Now, if Brother Raven's blueprint is one of them is based upon error-prone, then the fact that he does that and married to a non-African woman, that unfortunately sanctions and dismisses his work that he does. Because if the young children are looking up to him and they're listening to him and they see him with non-African and they're hearing his words and this and that and this and that and this and all the time, that is going to tell them that, okay, it's okay to be Pan-Africanist and be married to a non-African woman. It's okay to be raised on Pan-Africanism and say the N-word. So based on the principles of Pan-Africanism and Garveyism, he's definitely a reform, which is why I always say, unless you are Pan-Africanized on Garveyism, you should never, ever, ever speak on our community, because we suffer with imagination, emotion, and feelings. These three things meets us as African people, because we use that instead of strategizing. Because if Pan-Africanism is a business to make sure African people are bettering themselves economically, securely, in marriage and things like that, then we can say that David Chappelle, all due respect to him, is bad for business.
Empress Chris, would like to point?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I put it out there, because there's many things that obviously we love about our brothers on this panel, but it's the consistency. So I knew you would, Brother Cal, do what Brother Cal does. Do you know what I mean? And align it. But I mean, I absolutely agree, and I'm not saying that Dave Chappelle should be on the forefront. And that's what I did say. Like, I don't think he should be a leader. I don't think he should be the go-to. But when we're talking about people, when we're talking about reality, bro, and we do have people who date outside the race, I think he's an example of how to be, right? Because we're not, obviously, we know what the ideal is, but the reality is, and the reality is that people who date out of the race are more like the what's the football's name that you just put on?
John Barnes.
They're more like currently like the John Barnes, and we need them to be a bit more, for me, like the Dave Chappelle. If do you know what I mean? I'm not saying
I agree with that. I agree with that, because I think we're such in a wretched condition that any good is good. But one thing that we've done as a people collectively is we're so far removed from high principle behavior that we when someone does something that's of a good nature, we give them extra brownie points, and I understand this, but the way I'm looking at it is to try to establish like a custodian class. So I guess when you're in Asia, allegedly like the Buddhist monks and these kinds of people, they're meant to be the go-to who uphold righteous behavior in that community, right? And I think I don't know if we necessarily have that. I mean, we might do, might not, but there needs to be like when you think of black people, who do you think of is going to defend them correctly all the way and always have been high principle? Because it's through your error proneness that people will actually market you, you see? So if you're saying the N word all the time and this kind of thing, then that is what people will use to market you. Now that doesn't undermine any good work you do. Like the thing is, not everyone's perfect, and that's important that we remember that as well. That not everyone sets out to be perfect, and we respect anyone who says anything of any kind of good nature helps black people out, or 10 out of 10. But I think it's just always be cautious about like. It's almost like a lot like on YouTube when YouTube first came out, there was a lot of YouTube scholars coming from America and some England as well. And what I noticed is they had really good information about history, but they were effing and blinding every 7 seconds. So it was very difficult for me to present them to a child to learn history because they're effing and blinding and then swearing about other people and having beef in between. And it's almost like that became normal. Like even now, I was going to bring up as well, going on things like Clubhouse and this new one, Twitter Spaces, and we have to talk about this as well, because I want to bring it up towards the end. Whatever. But on these things, sometimes you go to certain forums, and the forums mainly about maybe history or black love or whatever it might be. But the error proneness, the word, the name calling, that just in communication there is error proneness. Just in there are people speaking that if they're gonna say like I believe we should marry black women, just that phrase they'll have 20 N words, 20 F words, 20 G words and Q words, like every single thing, just to say that, and it's almost like that's almost like you have a fruit bowl of some amazing juice that some aunties made, and someone just runs and throws urine in it. It's like, oh man, it's like, yeah.
It's hard to market. Yeah. And that's what we're saying about. We were saying like ages ago that we have to get people up to be media savvy. Do you know what I mean? That's just the basics, because even our leaders who have fallen before us, Malcolm X, you couldn't fluster him. He was ready for every question, no matter which question it was, because he knows he preempted your question. There's anyone that tailored to your type of character, if you look back in the past, you would have found them. They were black, they were articulate, and they knew how to handle the media, and they understood a code, right? If we're trying to raise our children, we can't have 3, 4, 5-year-olds hearing effing and blinding and everything else.
Yeah.
But there is an alternative for that, right? There are Pan-African schools and Saturday schools that they can go to for that, who would not do that, who are of a code. But I definitely agree with you. It's just it's for a certain audience, isn't it? But I guess they'll say it's for a certain audience, right? It's for adults.
Yeah.
Therefore, for the adults to then train the kids. But if we're looking for a future, it's like, come on, do you know what I mean? Don't just do the bare minimal when you've got so much potential in you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But,
You see, it's when you look at it, some people say, oh, you know what, Pan-Africanism, garbage is very strict. You know what I mean? You can't do this, you can't do that. And, you know, they're harsh on this. However, you've got to understand, and we all understand this, but I'm just mentioning it for those who have a little bit of doubt. There is an experience, right, and a mental disease that keeps permeating in our minds as African people. Like someone in the comment mentioned that if we're not forgiving, we'll be short of allies, right? But if you look in history, whenever there was leaders organizing upon a code of conduct, right, they rather had less allies than allies that would sabotage. And this is what I'm saying is that you have to live and breathe this code of conduct, because if we don't do this, what's going to happen is we're going to keep going backwards. We are very forgiving, and we've forgiven the unsynchronized Africans so much is that we're in the situation that we are. We forgive when they betray us. You know, nothing's happened to those unsynchronized Africans who participated in the assassination of Martin Luther King, as well as Malcolm X, as well as the help of the deportation of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, as well as the betrayal of Charlotte Base, because we're too forgiving. So when we say that although you're doing good things, right, and you're helping out, but you still have broken the code, you have to remove all the good things that they do and focus on that one bad thing, because the next generation need to understand, even if you do something good, right, it's still error prone, it's still unsynchronized. David Chappelle's a brilliant man, you know, but at the same time, and that, like, you know, all he's good that he's doing cannot equate to, you know, the unsynchronized mindset that he has. You know, he's married to an African woman. That breaks everything, because when he passes away, and we hopefully he passes away in a good state, all that's going to go into his Filipino wife. Now, I'm not judging or disrespecting that, but what I do understand is that you want to help those who look like you. If nature is practiced by all non-African people before the label, then that means all that money is going to go into the Filipino community, right? If Kobe Bryant wife, right, who's a non-African and that, right, she's not going to use all of his money to put into the African American or the African community who need it more. So that's why any form of good that they do, right, and I know it's controversial, it has to be removed, because how much intend to do good and never reach it? Many of us try to do good. Father Divine tried to, and that in America, and he led the people into socialism, and look what's happened now. John Barnes is a brilliant football player, hands down, you know what I mean? But at the same time, look what's happened. He's demonstrating that, you know, I'm a good footballer and my social status is with the white woman instead of with the Nubian woman who's been kissed by the sun. So that's what I'm saying is that should we be emotional, imaginative with feelings towards because they've done one charitable act from our people? No, we should dismiss it. They should get an order mark and a disciplinary.
Before we jump in, brother WIM and sister Tash, feel free to jump in. I'm not too sure. I think there's a conversation going about forgiveness, and it sounds like a very good conversation. I'm struggling to follow it because I'm obviously doing two things at once. But if you want to jump in and just start, you can jump in and just ask a question and jump out. It's up to you. But maybe someone can articulate what this forgiveness conversation is about. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, bro. I can help you out with that.
Excellent.
I think the beginning of it was, by the way, brother Cal, I understand. I think he said that playing devil's advocate here, but are we sometimes at risk of being alone if we don't forgive people that we may be short of allies in the future? I think that's what brother Cal was on. And then that's when you rightfully put on Tash's reply to that. But yeah, on that, I just think a sis of mine says something like, when we talk about us being more forgiving, we are the most forgiving. Brother Raven puts on that picture that just homes on the truth for me every time of the of the MPs. Like, who else do you know, or what else race, for example, the Jewish race, would you see with a bunch of German lovers? Like, if that's not forgiveness, what else is? We marry, we love the people who have oppressed us. You know, so when it comes to allies, though, bro, and this is with love, by the way, that I'm saying this, when it comes to allies, I don't think it's about forgiveness. They could care less. Like, if you look at somewhere like China, for example, they decided to go insular, lock off from the world, and they've built up. Now they've got allies, and it's not about forgiveness. It's about, okay, we're seeing that you're an emerging power, and we can see what the prediction is in the next 5 to 10 years. And we don't particularly want somewhere like the US or UK, the constant overlords that we've had for how many years. Why don't we, ally together? When it comes to allies, they do not care if we forgive or not. They wouldn't care if we became as strong as the Jewish community and be as insular as they are, where they are very staunch on about marrying within each other, where they tell you not to even talk about them, and they'll tell you and publicly humiliate you and make sure that everybody's seen you, because they'll make sure that you do that apology tour. If we were at that power and we didn't forgive, believe me, we'd still have them wanting to build with us, build bridges with us, do business with us. It's about power. It's not about forgiveness. And that's why I'm talking about we need to start thinking about self. And your question alone shows how much love we've got. Do you know what I mean? But we need to put that love within us first.
Yeah,
Because
and
it's the game that we're in. It's a game.
Yeah, I agree. And well said, sister. And I think like what Brother Carl was saying as well is a question of consequence. Like, it sounds harsh because we've been trained to be so kind that the concept of consequence is almost like gonna tear down the whole fabric of space and time. And that's why what I try to do is use the concept of pattern. Like, when you see a constant pattern and the same thing repeating, then that means we can put our passions to the side and actually have more of a structure, you know? Like, it's a structured based thing, like what works in Black people's collective best interest. And that is it in our best interest for a constructive Black woman to marry a constructive Black man? Yes, it is. You know, is it in our best interest to practice Black economics? Yes, it is. Are the two mutually connected? Yes, they are. So it's like, these are things that most people know, but they won't. When Black people are having these conversations, it seems to be more about feelings and passion rather than actual tangible step-by-step realities. And this is something that we need to really break down. I think having set rules beforehand, where we actually pull it in the person who's practicing its responsibility. Like, here's the rules. You will get this if you do that. If you don't get that, you don't get that. And what Brother Kel is saying is, regardless of how amazing someone is or how many backflips they can do and recite poems and this kind of thing, if they don't do certain basic stuff consistently, then it doesn't matter what they've done, it's irrelevant. And I think a good example of that might be someone like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is an inspiration for the world in the sense of one of the best, probably the best basketball player of all time. He has a shoe that's unrivaled. I don't know if it counts as his own company, but let's say it does. He's made billions. Good for him. This kind of stuff. But then, we know that he finds it hard to. I'm assuming he finds it hard to pick a side in the sense of, I think he gave $1 million to the police station and $1 million to the Black organization when it comes to like the murders of people, whatever. So it's that kind of playing the fence. And then obviously, as you know, he's an extremely rich, wealthy person who's much older than his wife, who's of European descent. So we understand that his wealth will not go to the Black community unless he's got some kind of crazy will, which they never do. So yeah, it's just interesting. Let's see, we have yes, no, more yeses, and sale is done. I don't know what that means, and we need to take you. I think you might be talking. Cool. But feel free, guys. I've sent the link out there. Jump in, have a conversation. We are asking about, are Black people too forgiving and to racism or to racists? Go ahead, sister.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I just want to say, I did want to mention something, that when this happened with this Rogan guy, this happened exactly the same time as what happened with Whoopi Goldberg, which I think is significant, because when there's clips of you just saying for I don't know how long, I don't know how long it is, but you just saying the N word and just flippantly, brazenly, no fear, no stuttering, compared to a CNN reporter, right? Last week stuttering, and you can see he was really apprehensive and taking each word and being measured, right? So you can see how the difference is. This happened both at the same time. Whoopi Goldberg went straight on suspension, and it was a public affair. Everyone had to know about it. It was in all the news, and this guy I don't think anything is really necessarily has happened to him. I mean, if there has, someone can say, but I don't think anything has happened to the extent of what happened with Whoopi Goldberg, which I think shows a lot of things. Our different practices, our difference in power, our code, because like you said, there will always be a black person coming out and saying that this was justified, which I've seen that they've done with Whoopi. So it's just kind of very clear that there's two kind of oppressions here, and one's okay, one's not. May
I ask, was there any Jewish person who came out to defend Whoopi Goldberg? Did anyone notice any Jewish person to come out to defend Whoopi Goldberg?
No, but on the clip that you showed last time, there was a guy, Don, what's his name?
Lemon.
Yeah, he did mention that there was a few of his Jewish friends who had said that this was a bit clumsy of Whoopi, but a whole suspension is a bit too much. And the guy, the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, laughed and said, well, I don't know what Jewish people you're talking about, like to say that can't possibly be real, right? Because we're all on code.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah, so much learning to be have. We have to rebuild from scratch. But I do think that Brother Kerr was in the right direction when I think there was a comment in the group where it said, well, what have I missed? Dave Chappelle for Bad for Business. And I think sometimes we shouldn't really look at it. I think sometimes we give celebrities too much expectation. And don't get me wrong, we should. Historically, a celebrity, it was part of their whole persona to speak about black issues in the Muhammad Ali days, these kind of places. But once again, we had institutions like the Nation of Islam there to guide and try to get people consistent and synchronized. But I don't know. I think sometimes we have such a small pool to draw from that, if someone says one good thing or two good things, we put them up there. This doesn't mean that you can't support people or like people's art or stuff, but we have to be very careful who we co-sign when it comes to Betterment. And this is just something across the board. I think, unfortunately, most of the arts and stuff we do are heavily compromised and error-prone. And we have error-prone people speaking on behalf of black people collectively. And it doesn't work in our best interest because, once again, when you have football players and rappers and this kind of people, why was John Barnes a person they went to? Now, what has John Barnes done, realistically, for black people that gives him any kind of qualification to speak on black issues? These are questions we're not really asking ourselves. Like, what are these people doing to make them worthy of an opinion?
And this is the thing, Brother Raven, is that our people need to understand that white supremacy is a business. We don't seem to understand that. So, for example, a non-African, as it be a European or an Asian or Middle Eastern, they can be in a relationship with African people because they uphold the business of white supremacy and that. Having an African child with them, the African child will help with the power structure because it will be confused in the sense that my dominant gene is not winning, but my less dominant gene is winning. This is a business, you see. So if it is a business, then Pan-Africanism needs to be a business. So marrying the black woman, and I think me, you, and Sister Kushti spoke about this in one of the shows of campaigning the African woman's intelligent, excellent creativity of a hairstyle more as a business than as a feeling, because this show is a business. Helping black people with a lifestyle is business. It's not just about the money, it's also life. So I think we need to look at it as a business, and rather than looking at it as some form of voluntary emotional trading conversation. No, we're practicing a business, and unless we understand it that way, that having black kids with black women is a business to help the business grow, then we're not going to get out of that situation, because the non-Africans view their unethical code of conduct as a business. They practice it in the house, and then they practice it outside. It's a business, and they continue that business, which is why we are in the state that we are, because we're not practicing our business, Pan-Africanism, based upon black betterment in all things.
Exactly. It's always been a business with us, straight from slavery. It was just about business. That's what it's been. So it's not changed yet.
What we have to understand. Sorry, Empress.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the reason, because I'm writing that down, just to Carl, as in it is a business, and I think we have to understand that when slavery was allegedly ended, because it was a business, the enslavers were awarded compensation. So, so even then, it doesn't matter how evil the act was. They realized this was a business, and I think that's a very good point. I let Empress Kush jump in a bit, but I think that's a very good point for her to write down that actually, when we are talking publicly, we need to really highlight that. No, we ain't talking about Disney and love at first sight and this kind of stuff. We're talking about business, and we want to use this business to better black people collectively. But sorry, Empress, carry on. Sorry about that.
No, that was brilliant. I agree with what you said there, and I agree with what Brother Cal said as well about what he said. It's just some home truths, and I agree. But the back and forth is going on in the chats, and
yeah, do you want to update us with that? I've kind of missed all that, man.
Yeah, so Sis Tash Jeffs basically said that, but the good Jewish community are in a position of power. They can afford to forgive her because they can get rid of her in a heartbeat. And let's be honest, I doubt Whoopi's views have changed. And then the brother comes back and says, and please come on the panel as well, bro, because it might be able to hear your opinion a bit easier. But he says that Sis Tash Jeff, true, but that shows them to be not a tyrant. If people have power and choose to forgive, then that shows more strength, surely. Yes, Jewish people did come to defend Whoopi Goldberg. They didn't want her cancelled. They just wanted a sincere apology. And I just want to say to the brother, it makes sense business-wise to have that structure. Like they've shown us enough times. I don't think this is because this is not a thing about forgiveness. Again, it is a thing about business. And no matter how you put it, if it's a business, it's a game, whatever word it takes for our people to get it, that's all it is. The feelings have no consideration, not when it's come to us, not from the beginning of time, not till now. So I feel that, it makes sense for them to say, look, you've done something wrong. We're going to publicly shame you, right? We're going to humiliate you first, because that's what happened. And then we're going to make you do the apology tour. We've seen this before with several other people. And then we'll forgive you. And there is something that I want to say that came into my mind after the show last week, that Brother Raven looked up the Anti-Defamation League. And by the way, everyone should do that. And he said that they had £80,000 in revenue. This is revenue. This is not investment.
80 million.
Yeah, 80 million. But we was thinking, well, where did they get that from? And to me, it makes sense, because when you're hearing code words like they're a friend of the community, or we want to see you invest. They constantly say they want to see you invest. They want to see you go around, go into these museums. We want you to see you to go and have talks with these people. They have to do specific things, yeah. And I think something in that is also paying.
Yeah, good point.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this whole thing, of course, we're not saying not to forgive. I don't think we've said not to forgive. I think what the word was, which is great that it's on there, is the custodian. That's a different thing. So we're not saying we're not going to forgive. But in the same way, you've got to look at the okie doke, bro. Like, there is a pattern here. And it's not about forgiveness. It's a business. It's a pattern. It's showing you what will happen to you. We might forgive you, but you have to go through these hoops because we're in charge. And if you haven't got any structure behind you, you're just going to have to play by our rules where we're on top and you'll continuously be at the bottom.
Good saying that. Good thing. Yeah. Obviously, as time goes by, we're going to be giving like shortened words that can help people explain concepts to people to get them, more synchronized with Black Bear and this kind of stuff. And this word custodian is very important because sometimes when we're talking, we forget that there's a purpose. And the question that's asked in this conversation we're having, so if it's you and an unsynchronized brother or sister, you have to ask which one of us is the custodian of Black people, meaning that this is something that a person has to admit within themselves and out publicly. Like I actually, and I tried it to Speaks Corner all the time ago there. And I tried to make it very clear that I'm here to represent the needs of Black people. Right? I'm here, and everything I'm saying correlates with how Black people can do better. So if the concept you're doing doesn't synchronize or even highlight how Black people can do better, then we're not actually talking about the same thing. You're talking about a different topic, and that isn't within my remit. That isn't within my job restriction. And I put it that way, like this is my job. Like if I'm getting paid to to fix plumbing, yeah. You wouldn't ask me, well, what about the food? Who's going to cook the food? It's like, no, I'm a plumber, it's a different topic. So I think just establishing that. We've got a question. Black folks call Black genocide reproductive rights. Okay, I don't know what that means, but okay, cool. So guys, we are to our last 20 minutes. Sometimes we go over, but we try to keep it for 2 hours. If we got some good topic, we might go a bit more, but generally we've got 20 minutes left. So the link is in the, put it one more time. Voila, many links. Feel free to jump in if your brother and sister you want to speak on any of the topic at hand. We are talking, do we feel that Black people are too forgiving? We tend to do more than, there we go. We've got someone in now in the last 20 minutes. Welcome, brother WIM.
Hey, welcome. Thanks, Raven. Can't get my words out today. Bless up, everyone.
Welcome. So, brother WIM, do you have it? Because obviously we always love to be challenged in the sense of and see things at a different angle and things we might have missed. There are a lot of words you put in the form. I might have misspelled them because I'm somewhat slow sometimes when it comes to reading like forums and doing the show. But was there anything you wanted to ask or have asked or anything like that about this topic?
Yeah, it was just really to clarify my position. I think for me, it was just all about, I know we talk about codes and I agree with it fully. But the other thing I'm thinking, are we a bit too dogmatic with our codes? Because at the end of the day, other groups work with other groups that they hate. And I think probably the word I use, forgive. And I think it's just a case of, do we just have to accept that we have to work with certain people who we don't like? Because that's what happens in the real world. Real world is based on relationships. Like if you're your job, there are people who you hate working with, but it's a means to an end. And all I was really getting to is saying, look, are there certain situations where people are a means to an end? And I'm not saying we don't get them to apologize. I'm not saying we don't get them to probably even donate to our causes. But is there a point where we say, look, there are means to an end. Can we use them for our utility as opposed to just ostracizing them? And therefore you create a big problem.
Brother White Matters, right? Here's the thing, brother. Now, you were saying about the other ethnicities, etc., right? Now, the Honourable Marcus Garvey and Brother Raven, I think he explains in the blueprint, he made it clear that you can do temporary alliances, right? So you're referring to like some of us are in non-African institutions, right, and etc., right, due to certain circumstances, right? Here's the thing, though, brother. When the African came over in the UK, the African Caribbeans, for example, and the other Africans, but I'm going to focus on the African Caribbean, is that they, you know, the protesting of getting the rights is that they managed to get into the workplaces, right? But instead of doing temporary coalition with the non-African institution, they decided to become permanent. And that means that we were going to universities, learning the trade into a building. And instead of saying to the non-African who owns the institution that, thank you very much for your help, I'm going to build my own, we became too permanent and attached because of feelings. And then the next generation have nothing. That's why the Honorable Marcus Garvey always propagandized, my brother, temporary, not permanent, because of our mindset, brother. You got to understand that. And Brother Raven always speaks about it. We have a subservient mindset towards non-African people. I do. We all do. The moment we see them, hear them, our voice changes, our mindset turns to subservient and sees them as godly. That's a problem. In other words, brother, we idolize them, good or bad. So in political science, brother, we want to limit that type of strategy that can make us be unsynchronized and basically get us in a very devastated state. So we need codes of conducts, although you may look at it dogmatic, but code of conducts you find it in the police station, you'll find it in workplaces, you know, you'll find in every single institution, brother. For the collective to function, there's a code of conduct. So that's why we say temporary instead of permanently. I just wanted to quickly touch on, you were saying that the Jewish community were helping. They were, some of them that didn't want Whoopi to be cancelled. But in political science, my brother, is that one of the principles of the non-Africans is that always appear that you're not part of the powerful collective by confusing the African, that you understand what they're going through, so they don't think that you're part of that collective. Non-African people, they can be negative and positive towards the African, but at the same time, they still share that power. So they can be two roles, they can fight amongst each other. And you'll think to yourself, oh, they're at war with each other. But at the same time, because they're at war with each other, they still have that power. So you should never, ever, ever, brother, separate them. You should always generalize all non-African people for protection. And you should always division black people because we need the most help, if that makes any sense, brother.
Yeah, it does make sense, but I just feel there's this fear. I'll say it's fear. What it is we're kind of becoming more of the people that we hate. I hate. Let's not use the word hate. Who we've been used to stepping on this. Now, again, this is the thing. I agree with codes. Codes has always been good, but like any punishment, there is a forgiveness. There's a process where after that penance, you call it, is due. Then there's a stage of after. And that's all the thing I was honing in on. I get the fact that they're in a position of power, so they can afford to do this, and I fully get that, and they have used that to their strength. But yeah, it does show to me the strength of the people when they're in power as to what they do when things like that happen, as opposed to when they're not in power. I think that was my only sort of angle that I was getting at today.
I wanted to I heard you on that, brother, and I just wanted to speak on what you said about working with them. I think, I think people who tend to be focused on working within their community, they always get tarnished with a brush of hating someone else when they're too busy loving their own, which is a task on its own, than to have the energy to be hating on someone else. And I think we should actively work to disarm that and shut it down, just as we shut down other things. I believe that we should shut down like disrespect of black women and other stuff. But on what you said, I believe that and this is my opinion, I don't know if the brothers agree, but I believe that in my black betterment doesn't mean that I will not do business with outside. Not in this climate. It doesn't make any sense. I can make money from you. We can do business. It could be a contract, but I'm still going to have my morals, my belief. I'm still going to place my people first. And if it means making income, if money's already, okay, let's take the continent. If you're already extracting money and paying us pence, nothing for what we've got anyways, I would rather have a powerful base where I can say, right, I've got these minerals, I'm going to keep the majority for myself, but then maybe the 20% that I decide to share with the world, I can now make it as a premium rate, and I'm prepared to have business where I am selling an item and getting money back in, where I'm then putting that money back within the community. That is my black betterment. So I'm doing business with you, but you're not going to tell me to jeopardize my code in doing it.
And you know what? I agree. And that's what the Jews do perfectly. And that's like the next level where Jews, again, not all of them, but collectively their own music companies, banks, who works for them, who makes the money for them. It's not necessarily them. So they understand the way, what's the phrase? The game is the game is the game. And so in this globalized world, these things have to be taken into account, not because you're, again, you can still be pro your people, but understand what it requires in order for that community to rise. There's a lot, I don't want to use the word selling out, but there's a lot of contradictions that we do have to face. As I think Brother Kale or Raven, I think one of you two said it early on in the stream that I heard. And there are some contradictions in what we do in terms of how we approach ourselves. It's not like we're anti ourselves or we're trying to be anti this, but there are some things that, it may not sit well with our soul, but the bigger aim is what are we looking to achieve? And sometimes it just seems, again, I could be wrong, that even though we have all these, we have numbers, we have this, but yet I think we're going to become an island to ourselves by trying to shoehorn ourselves out of the picture. Where I suppose, hold on, the bigger picture is the bigger picture.
I hear that, and that's I'm glad you said that, because and maybe in a slightly different context, I might be segueing somewhere else, but this was one of my fears of what you tend to have is you have a smaller group who really agree, speaking to themselves, and a massive group that's completely disconnected. So with the black betterment as a lifestyle, I try to break it down very simple, and I'll highlight it now. I know I say it every week, but it's never too late to show things again. But it's where is it? There we go. So yeah, it is establishing this black betterment and this black betterment builder. Really, John Barnes could be a black betterment builder. So John Barnes could have two white wives, actively go and defend every single anti-black friend he has, and swear that they love him and he loves them, and they'll never harm black people and all this kind of stuff. And what he does is, every year he spends $1 million of his own money to build motherboard development school for black children. And we say, well done, you're a black betterment builder. In that area, we need that. Well done, that's very helpful. And then he might spend another time where he teaches children how to grow mangoes in cold climates, which is very handy. That's good. But then we do make a distinction between the black betterers, the people who just non-stop. We have a non-stop way of viewing things, and it's a different thing. And to add to that as well, when you say, if I could have read it wrong, but when you say things like separating ourselves, if you're talking about separating ourselves from individuals who practice anti-black hate, like we're reporting now, would you say, are you referring to that? Just so I don't get that wrong. Is that, you think that might be problematic or not really?
Not quite. I think when it comes to anti-black hate, and I didn't want to get into the sort of the lower level, but I was gonna, is there a line? Is there a level? Is there a line here? Because you referenced John Barnes, and he's a perfect example because he's much maligned, John Barnes. Even though he has said some things which you could argue is on code, especially his latest book. And this is what I was going to say, because you got the Black Betterment Builder, but for example, if it's John Barnes who's, he's come out on record, he's defended Liam Neeson, he's defended Winston Churchill or something like that, I believe. Would he even want to be a Black Betterment Builder? Because you're pretty much going to ostracize him. So are we going to now lose a whole?
No. And this is part of the code, just to make it more sense, right? when someone's a builder, we can't undo work. So if a black person takes their own time, money, and resources to do something specifically for black people, not indirectly, oh, black people also benefit, then we can say they're a black Betterment builder. Just like if a person only eats dairy, egg, and fruits, whatever, we can say they're a vegetarian. While the person who only eats plants is the vegan. We can say that. It's like we can't take that away from them if that's what they're doing. Because remember, this isn't a club. This is a lifestyle, and words used to highlight a lifestyle, right? So the lifestyle of being a builder is you've decided to, throughout the year, do one or two things that is dedicated to black people, and that means we can, okay, that guy's a builder. He's building. He's doing it. Wherever he acknowledges it or not, it doesn't matter. We've got a way of identifying what's happening, so we can say he actually is a builder. Right?
I'm just going to say this, and this is the fear I'm having, because this is what I'm seeing right now, and I have to look at it from their side as well as from your side. So I'm just, again, I like to play just devil's advocate to consider certain approaches. What we're seeing right now, and it's almost too late to, the genie's out of the box now, but a lot of black folk are probably going to say, do you know what, because I'm not with a black partner, because I'm now seen as an other, I'm not even going to do the building part. I'm going to say forget anything in regards to us. Because there's a lot of I don't know there's probably a lot of people who feel as if they are not appreciated because of that fact, and they're going to say, and there are a lot of powerful people. And if we ask the question, well, what done for black people? They'll bust back and say, well, why would I? When at the end of the day, I can't speak on behalf of you guys when it comes to black issues. I can't do this on behalf of our issues. So now we've got a whole pool. Now, again, you may think, good, we don't need them. We got a whole pool of resources, talent that's gone.
Okay, let me answer that. It's a very good question. And how I look at it is, it's intent, and it's the intent of something. And what I mean by that is, I remember there was this, I always use veganism as a story. And there was a woman who says, oh, you know what? My uncle was a vegan, and he said he was, but when I went out to his house, I made such a good chicken pie that he became a meat eater again, right? And that's possible, right? So they're no longer vegan, but really, there is a purpose, there's a reason behind certain things. So it's like if the way people talk or the way people label things makes you completely never want to help black people ever again, then you were never a part of what we're doing ever. It's like it's like the reason behind what you're doing wasn't even in a good place, because you shouldn't want to help yourself and your own people just to please someone else. It should be something that is innate within you, and that's what we're trying to extract. And we're trying to give lifestyle codes and words to make you find that the easiest process of doing it. So I think I would question their motive if the fact that we were saying these things like, we recognize that there are people who like this and people like that, and we call them this. If that makes them go, I'm gonna go back and be an everydayer, then I would question why they're even in this conversation at all.
I hear you, bro. I hear you, and this all sounds great in like an idealistic world, but let's be honest nowadays, especially, people do get upset about the words you use.
Yeah, of course.
I think, I'm pretty sure it was on the stream where someone mentioned that during one of the BLM rallies, that the rhetoric that was used, words, it made people uncomfortable because they have, let's be honest, either mixed cousins, they probably have a non-black partner. A lot of these things, again, it just it's one of those things where it does alienate, and that's all I wanted to say. But sorry,
before Brother Cal jumps in, before you come, let's say this right before I forget. That's why we have high principled. So when you're high principled, you realize you do not use derogative terms, and the code is this, because one, it's not nice, and two, it can be used to undermine black progress. This is the facts, right? So as long as you remember that's a good thing. But also let's remember who is suffering and who is not, right? And what are the actions of the people? Because when it comes to black people, we always seem to worry about, how people are and all this kind of stuff, but we forget that other communities are doing what we're trying to do better than us. And at no point do they ever have that internal argument about other groups out, because that's why the most important thing about Black Betterment, and this is the biggest challenge, because sometimes you're going to lose people, and here it is, it's black people helping black people. And that's why the analogy of veganism is important, because the vegan will not entertain the man goes, well, what if I kill the duck humanely? What if I pray for the cow as I eat his legs? It's like, no. The starting point, is you don't eat meat. You don't count animals, isn't it? Our starting point is it's just black people. Once you get past that, everything makes sense. Go ahead, Brother Cal. Sorry about that.
I was going to ask you, Brother Raven, you see the Black Betterment builders, right?
Yeah.
Is there like a time frame where they're in that position in order for them to become a black betterer? Because the way I look at it, brother, as I said, I was raised upon Pan-Africanism, and I was taught that Pan-Africanism is a business, right? Like white supremacy is a business. So if we look at it, that there's different sections to the business, right? That in order for you to be, a manager or a CEO, that you have to be trained and reformed to get to that level. So my question for you, brother, and as I said, it's a brilliant format, because it definitely needs to be upon these things. Is there a time scale where they're in that type of that level of the business? Because we hope that it's not going to be in there too long, So is there a time scale? What's the duration of it, brother?
Well, honestly, to be fair, to be equal, I should say, I would say that the fears that Brother WIM has said is something I'm aware of. And honestly, once you're a black betterer, if you're gonna start a business, whatever it might be, you are pretty much looking for black betterers to handle the management of it, or whatever it might be. Because just like we talk about having kinship groups and this kind of thing, fellowship groups, sorry, whatever it is, the Black Betterment Builder, this is more of a marketing campaign, or more of a kind of like the ease of Black Lives Matter, where every black person sees a rally and they put their fist up and they say Black Lives Matter. This is the same kind of concept where it's like anyone in the world can be a Black Betterment Builder. A black person who's living a complete error-prone lifestyle can, within one element in their being, one element in their actions, do something that is high principled and dedicated to black people. And in that act, they have become a Black Betterment Builder in teaching kids how to be a plumber. You see, that it goes that far.
Yeah, it's like distinguishing who's doing it for the hype when it's trendy and who's really about it consistently.
Right, but at no point do I want to undermine, because you got to understand, like, sometimes I have to be merciful to black people. And why I say this, because a person such as myself, with the life I've lived, and the ups and downs, it as challenging as it is to be dedicated to black people every single day, it's like I'm unaware of another person's mindset. So someone who might have lived a different lifestyle, who was completely unsynchronized with black people, I need to allow, they may never have the capacity to be dedicated to black people throughout their life, because they've been completely psychologically turned to a different direction, right? But there is a activity they can do that can benefit, and in that activity they can get that Black Betterment badge of, for this time or for this thing, I was dedicated to black people. So I, at that point, was a Black Betterment Builder. Or if they do it consistently, meaning they do it every week or every year, then they can say, I'm a Black Betterment Builder in the art of selling, teaching kids how to make motherboards. I do it every year or every month, and that's my contribution to black people, dedicated, and that's the lifestyle and acknowledgement that we put for them. And the way to make it make more sense for the people in the crowd is black belts and white belts. The black belts are going to be throwing people all over the place, all the job, but the white belts, not so much, but they're still doing the karate thing. They still do it. And the capoeira, I should say. Does that make sense, Brother Carol, at all?
It does, brother. It does. And as I said, brother, I support it. You know what I mean? Because it's it's based upon political science of a lifestyle, and it's a brilliant template. As long as there are levels, probably, because we saw our beloved brother John Barnes, and he's speaking on our community, but at the same time we need to not forget the reality of him. And I know he's an elder, but brother, we have to help the business out. You know what I mean? And you know, we have to try and have order marks and disciplinaries for those who want to speak in our community when they've broken the code of conduct. But apart from that, brother, I'm with the blueprint, brother. I'm with.
Let me also add this to that one, make it make more sense. When you become a black veteran, the idea is you bathe yourself in all the knowledge needed to help black people in different areas of activity. But when you become an actual builder themselves, not a better builder, you're doing one thing. So a builder has a right to go on TV and talk about motherboards and how motherboards can help black people. Because if you spent a year or a lifetime just teaching black children how to make motherboards, then if the topic is motherboards, you're welcome to go on TV talk about it. So we would expect the builder, they have permission to do that culturally, right? But they won't be speaking about anything else because they don't do anything else. Do you know what I mean? The betterers are the ones doing everything in that regards, right? Also, I'm reading the comments about being a vegan for 9 years, haha, so I can understand that even more. Yeah, you're going to realize that every time I talk, I'm definitely going to use veganism as the greatest analogy because it's very, very simple. It's like, and sometimes it gets harsh. Like, for example, if you're a vegan and you fly and you crash, unfortunately, in the mountain, and there's only humans left, and you have to eat one to survive, in that act, you're not a vegan. You're not a vegan. But you're going to think, but that's hard because I'm a vegan, but if I don't eat, I'm gonna die. Okay, that might be the case, but you don't qualify anymore, innit? But don't get me wrong, when you come down from the mountain, you can reform yourself. Unfortunately, if you do acts that keep you consistently unsynchronized, i.e., if you marry a non-black person, I mean that's a lifelong commitment. So that means you have now a lifelong commitment with someone who's not black. And when it comes to black economics, they are not going to take your wealth and this kind of stuff. So in that act, you cannot be seen as a black betterer because it's a lifelong commitment. Just like if you were in that plane and then you crashed and then you literally stayed in the mountains eating people, for whatever reason you would do that, you can't count. It's just, I know it's unfortunate, but it's just how it works. And I think this benchmark rebranding that black people specialize in, we need to fix it. There is a set of things people do to be seen as something else, i.e. a black belt. You need to do certain things to be a black belt, right? It's like you can't just go, but it's not fair. Why has he got a black belt and I've got a white belt? Because he's put the effort in, hasn't he? Or she. They've demonstrated a consistency in learning. Yeah, they don't want to take that white belt and then pull it in a black dye and go, I'm a black belt. We can't do that anymore. You have to actually do the job, do the task. So that's what we do. Let's see anything else. Feel free to jump in over, but go ahead. The question.
Yeah. I've got a few questions here. Brother Cal, what was you saying? What was you mean when you was asking how far? When you was mentioning John Byrne? So are you saying that he shouldn't even be considered a black betterer because of his lifestyle? Or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, most definitely. He's an elder and we respect his talent. But as a Pan-Africanist, as I was raised, he should not be speaking on political issues. It's contradictory, and it's a problem as well because you notice in the comment a lot of people saying, well, he spoke about this, so we should be able to advocate that. Or Dave Chappelle, he does some good things. This you see the confusion, sister, and that it confuses us. You know what I mean? It really does. So, as what Brother Raven says, I totally agree that when it comes to football, he can be a great advocate for us and helping the black kids to learn about football. And then the black betterers, what they do is they Pan-Africanize the black child and say, play football and the money goes into Africa, the Caribbean, and wherever else. But yeah, on them lines, sister.
Okay, thank you for that. For clarifying. And also, I just wanted to clarify. I said something that I said that just taking someone who's saying it for a trend apart from someone who's real life. But then it kind of brings me to this thing that people seem to constantly go at this point and use the example of a person dating outside. A black person could be with or married to a black woman and still not be a black betterment builder.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that's what people need to understand. They're focused on this one aspect. Like, this is not just to penalize people with their choices. This can equally be with a black person who is just not doing nothing good for the community. So we need to just like open it up a bit and stop constantly focusing on these people that are using their personal circumstance as an excuse to why we should change our whole code for them.
Yeah,
and I wanted to answer
10 points for that. Currency, but very good statement.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask a question to Brother WIM. Is, you know, the example that did get mentioned that people say that, okay, you know, I went to a rally and I feel uncomfortable. What is the alternative? What should we tell Pan-Africans or Black Betterment builders to do to make those people feel comfortable?
So I suppose it's all to do with the type of words that are used. Ultimately, and it sounds like a contradiction I'm going to say here, but ultimately you can't govern someone's feelings. So there are things that are going to be said, which I suppose in certain spaces may offend certain people. And I suppose it's when it comes to an open rally like that, it's more difficult for it to be policed because it's going to get out to a wider audience than if it's in a sort of a ring fence environment, which I believe we probably need to get back to. In regards to how we have, I say rallies, but get-togethers in order to establish what we need to actually do. But ultimately, in terms of what we can do, to a certain extent, people are going to be upset regardless of what you say. But there are some language which I think we could probably get away from, which I think Raven, I think you have some languages that you sort of stay away from. Probably something like that where it don't come across as anti-hate group, like you said as well. You can be pro yourself without being anti anybody else.
Yeah, so, but my brother, sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I just want to say, but you did mention that people have an exact problem with how Raven speaks. So Raven is very true to.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said that how you yourself, Raven, know that people have a problem with the things that you say or feel uncomfortable with the fact that I guess he's so clear cut or blunt or not wavering, and they've been offended when they've come on. Or they've said things that they're offended. Yeah, if you didn't mean that, I'm just repeating what you'd said. If you didn't mean it, then you could
I can't remember me saying that, but I suppose to what I said just now, there were people who'd be offended regardless. But there are things that people have said which clearly will offend people. Clearly. So there are situations where I think I said, look, people are going to be offended regardless of what you say, if it's nice and dovey-dovey. But there are words which I've heard people say out in which is definitely there to offend. And again, anti someone else. So again,
I was just gonna. The reason why I said that, it wasn't like to put you in a corner or anything like that. Like, you can rewind. It could have been said before, maybe I didn't hear. But what I'm saying is, I could see why people. I mean, Raven has had people that he's offended just by his stance, and he says it in a non-offending way. He doesn't. He just says his truth. He doesn't go out to offend other people. And Raven has a whole list of words that he prefers you not to say or an alternative to say. See, he has done everything to make it, what's the words, palatable, right? But yet people will still have a problem with him. And this is what I'm saying, like within us, you understand that we are not anti anyone else, but for ourselves. What more can we have to do to make those people feel comfortable? And how long are we going to focus on making those people feel comfortable? Because if you hear Raven, he says, I appreciate if you have a different opinion, but I prefer you not to say it here. I prefer you not to say things that's in a rude term that could be offensive. I want us to be people first, focus first, not outside first. And I have seen, he has given examples on here where he has shown his views and people have gone mad. Like two men on a live on Instagram, and they were offended by him saying that he'd prefer black people to be with black people.
So, I agree with that, Brother Raven. And you know, it's like the Honourable Luis Farrakhan is very, very, very generous with his words when he's dealing with the non-Africans. You know what I mean? And Brother Raven does have that element, but at the same time, as what Sister Kushu was saying, which I was taught when I was younger, is that it doesn't matter what you do, right? You have to separate Brother White Matters. I know this is going to be very strong from non-African people psychologically, mentally, and hopefully physically, because of they use a political strategy of making you feel guilty of something that you haven't done. Hitler's right-hand man says, yes, he says, Joseph Goebbels, he says, accuse the opposition what you're guilty of. You see, when we say these rules, brother, it's not to be anti anyone else. It's to protect our subservient, uncontrollable dopamine, fantasizing, emotional feelings on our African people, which goes against the law of humanity and that, which means you're worshiping them. So when we're saying separating, it's meaning when you're around them, they make you feel guilty. They're not an unethical code of conduct with the face expression. Naturally, you say to yourself, I must be the monster. Let me try and be more accepting to them. The unethical code of conduct with the mannerism. My mannerism is monsters. I need to be more timid. You see, bro, we naturally want to do unethical.
No. I think I hear what you're saying, but no. I think based on what I'm saying, I think you're going a bit too extreme with it. So, like Raven, there's no way now have a problem with Raven. If someone gets offended by what Raven says, then that's on them. And I said there are people who will, regardless of what you say, get offended. But there's a difference between like Brother Raven and then like a Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who obviously he died himself. There's a complete shift of difference in regards to what he would say and what he has said in the past, as opposed to like Raven. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Hold on, brother. Due respect to you, right? I understand that we freedom fighters, there are different orbital skills that they've used, right? But at the same time, brother, when it comes to Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and he's a brilliant ancestor, is that don't confuse directness of the feelings of the non-African, because when you look at his shows, right, is that what is it that he's saying that makes them so wild? You know, this African freedom fighter, where his people has no power. What is it that he's doing that's making the non-Africans go all wild, where they have all the power, they control the Justice Department, the real estate, the wealth? What is it that he's really doing? You know, we need to unpack that, brother. What is the difference between black racism and white racism? And when we find and draw the line, brother, you know that Khalid Abdul Muhammad ain't doing anything wrong. It's just that the non-Africans feel threatened due to their guilt of oppressing black people globally. Or
bro, I hear you, but there's power in words. And you talk about what power do you have? There's power in words. And you know, words can galvanize people. You know, words can make people go crazy. So I hear what you're saying in terms of the institutions, but there's power in what you say and who hears it. And the wrong person hearing the right words or even the wrong words can be a dangerous weapon. So words have been weaponized. They will be weaponized. They will forever be weaponized. And in terms of what he said, and I'm just some of the things he did say, he was talking about, well, he basically called Jews fake Jews and all this kind of other things. But I don't want to get into the past of it. But
hold on, bro. You see, brother, you see, as a Pan-Africanist political science, brother, we must study the African freedom fighters to better our agenda. I'll give you a quick example. Neela Fuller Jr., brilliant black psychologist, he says we don't study our history to focus how great we was. We study to focus on the mistakes we made. Now we have many examples, brother, of our African freedom fighters who use political science as it pertains to how they dealt with the non-Africans in their time. His blueprint, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, can be used in certain times that we face, because sometimes, brother, mastering an art of a bold move is better than being lambs to the slaughter. All due respect to you, brother. And I mean that with the most ultimate respect, because I know you're coming with sincerity, but we must study our African freedom fighters, brother, to use their blueprint to better our agenda and not use the non-African blueprint, which will make us go backwards and destroy all of us.
Okay, before you jump in, Empress Push, did you want to add to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say though to brother WIM is like, I get this whole premise of an ally, but I feel like an ally, if someone was going, and I'm talking about an ally which is not even in the community, right? And we've seen examples of people who have confessed to be an ally. We've seen, and I know Brother Kel's not going to agree with this, but we have seen white people pictured with groups who have done very well within our community, who we all agree have done well, like the Black Panther and stuff like that, who have not necessarily been black, right? And being in that setting, for example, if you're a white ally in that setting and go into one of their meetings, I do not think that because there was a couple or one white person there, they're going to watch their tone and how they speak. They're going to address and express themselves freely to get to the core and the emotions of their people, to get them riled up for war, to do whatever they have to do. Not like war in the war sense, but you know what I mean? Get into position and do what they have to do. So I feel like to call yourself an ally is a very big title, and in that is understanding that your feelings in this moment right now does not matter, because the consensus worldwide is your feeling always matter over this group of people. So I understand if I hear something that is a reaction instead of someone starting something, right? I understand what that is. So that is a big task if anyone wants to feel to do that for another community. But we're talking about a black person in this as well. This is what we're talking about. So a black person cannot comprehend why someone might feel like this because they're marrying a white person. Like, sometimes you got to just, I feel that we have to think of everybody else's feelings but the people who want to focus on self. And we get stalled in that. We don't move forward because there's no getting out of it. Every time I ask people, what is the alternative? They can't come up with one. If you're not outly speaking hatred, but you might come to a place where people are passionate and someone's just died and someone says the wrong thing and you turn around and say, oh, you know what? Yeah, peace out. Then peace out. Because you was going to go sooner or later. Better sooner.
Thank you, what I would add to that is, and this is something that I always forget to mention, the way I word things and I try to erect certain systems, it almost should actually like nullify certain things or even just completely ignore them. And the concept of black betterment is for black people to talk to black people about black issues. So at no point should we really be talking about non-black people unless it's on a defense, like a defense strategy or a review basis kind of thing. But generally, we should be doing it. And also, everything we do in the act of black betterment should be high principled. So that should defend us. But I understand that Brother IC3 jumped in and he might have something to say. So Brother IC3, just say your point if you had to say something. Sorry.
No, I'm just in support of what Brother Kale was dropping some good points there, which points what I would have made, but Brother Kale's made them already.
Brother Kale's on point for that one. Brother WIM, wonderful questions, and that's why we love having you here. Anything you like to add to that? Very, very good perspective. Very good perspective.
Yeah, no. I think sound too loud. I hear what everyone is saying, and I'm not disagreeing with the code. I'm not disagreeing that we need to focus on ourselves. All I'm saying, again, this is more from a practical sense because we're in the here and now. We don't have the privilege of the groups because we're so unsynchronized. So because we're so unsynchronized, there are certain approaches which, if we go down this hard route, it's going to probably end up in a place where we probably didn't expect it to, because we're trying to use an old blueprint back in the day when we were more synchronized, where we're completely out. I almost compare ourselves to a cancer patient. When you're a cancer patient, there are certain things you have to do at this stage where, we can't afford to be saying, well, we should have do that. At this stage, it's like, nope. So that's the only sort of angle I'm going with. It's just a case of knowing the conversation I've had, knowing the conversations you've had, then I know exactly where it's going to end up. And I think it's just that practicality of where we're at with things with people. And keep this in mind, I'm not. This is not even allies. I'm talking about our own people, which I guarantee it's just, this is why we're getting worse and worse and worse as opposed to getting better and better and better.
Is there a disagreement here? I think I'm sensing that WIM has a different perspective in contrast to Brother Kale's position, but what exactly is the difference?
So there's a couple of differences. The first difference, I don't know if you caught this, was just about allying. So I suppose for me it was about forgiveness and using people utility. There are useful people in other groups who can be used as allies or usefulness. So it may be a case of if that, for example, in order for civil rights bills to get passed, they need the white allies. In order for our bills to be passed, we need the white allies. There are certain allies who we just take them as, look, we need them for a purpose. That's all we need them for, as opposed to just removing everyone from ourselves.
Right.
So that was the first sort of different viewpoint.
So your position is to trust white people.
Whoa. Strong word.
Hold on, family. To make it flow smoothly, when you place it down, I'm just going to do a magical pause, and then I'm going to add to that. So the magical pause is when you just said about having sometimes allies. Whether I agree or disagree with that, because there's a rule set, that concept has nothing to do with the lifestyle of black Betterment. So it can be practiced by black veterans or whatever, but when that practice happens, it is no longer part of the discussion of black Betterment because you're now going outside the group. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm saying it can be, you can do that. Just like me and you might be black bearers, right? We might decide to go into a Chinese chip shop to buy chips. That's got nothing to do with black Betterment. But if we went to Caribbean, that could be. But we are going to eat Chinese chips because we like Chinese chips, right? Or maybe we do. I don't know.
Well, hold on. Sorry to cut you, Raven. But let me just understand this then. So going outside to help our community is not black betterment.
Right. So what it is basically black betterment, is doing for self for as much as possible. So if it is done in power, i.e., this is a rough example. Everyone in the power now, we create a bank app, or we create a farm, right? And then we get all the tools, we hire people, we get the farm up, and then we can now sell to, say, Chinese people, right? Whatever. So that kind of thing, that's fine. That's not like being completely inwards in your thing, right? You're coming from a place of power. But anything where if you're talking about, getting what European politicians to do this kind of stuff, you can do that if you think that's good, but that has nothing to do with the concept of black betterment.
But okay, let me give this example then. Brother Levi Roots, he went to Dragon's Den and he got an investment from, I forgot the dragon's name.
Good one. Good example. I'll make.
Can I come in there, Brother Raven, or do you respect it?
You can. Let me say it for 17 seconds. You can jump in. I'll be very quick. So Brother Levi goes on the show. And you can jump in also. Brother Levi goes on the show. In the act of talking to the people to get money, that has nothing to do with black betterment. However, once he's got the money and he's become rich, if he decides to make a black-owned company or hire black people, that is.
Be very careful with that one. Very careful with that. I would be very careful with that. Okay.
What does that mean?
That's right.
I know the others want to jump in, so I don't want to keep going back. Just
what does that mean? Come on.
Now, here's how I've heard it. Okay? Here's how I've heard it. And this is what a lot of black men have told me, and I hear what they're saying. Yeah. You didn't want me when I was working for the white man because I needed to get where I need to get to. Now they've empowered me to become famous. Now you want me to help you as a community.
No, quick answer. No. Yeah. So what is it? Isn't, remember, we want to remove the individual humanism of definitions, right? We're saying that black betterment is a doing thing, not a title thing, right? But we have a title for it. So, for example, a person can kill a whole lot of animals, right? And then take their hide and make a massive box, right? And in that box, they use that to transfer animals from one place to another. So once the animals are transferred and they do things with them, you can call that veganism. But in the killing of the animals, even though it was for a good reason, that can't be veganism, because veganism, you don't kill people. Black betterment is black people helping black people on black issues. So you have to go to non-black people. That act isn't defined as black betterment. But if you become rich from it and you decide in a future date to do a black betterment act, meaning I get black people to do this, that act actually is, and that's the Black Bearer Act. Now, you can be a black betterer and go into a Chinese chip shop and buy Chinese chips, right? But you can't then come onto a black platform. Guess what, guys? I'm going to promote this new Chinese chip shop. It's the best. I'm a part of it. It's a part of Black Betterment. It's got nothing. It's just the act. It's just like, you randomly went to a chip shop. Why would we talk about a Chinese chip shop in a Black Betterment podcast?
But what about this though? I think it's the wrong analogy you
Interesting. I
used.
like the angle.
I think it's the wrong analogy on the chip shop. That chip shop is feeding their family.
Right.
So that's the Black Betterment part. They go into a store to feed their family. They're going to store to feed themselves in order for that family to survive, because you need food for your family. So
you talk about Chinese people.
Feeding the family is Black
anything,
Betterment, not
because
going
you're gonna
to the chip shop.
Yeah, but you can. Yeah, but okay. But for example, everyday items you're gonna have to go to a non-black store, Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Marks and Spencers, whatever it is that you want to go to, Aldi, Lidl. They're majority non-black owned. So you're gonna have to feed your family. So there's again the contradictions. But
No contradictions. No. I need to use magical pause. I need magical pause because what I have to do now is I can't allow people to say things and go in a different direction that we want to talk about. And let me help you out. We're on the same path. Basically, right? We only talk about the things, that are Black Betterment based, meaning when we come together to do things. As a normal human being, you're gonna do things that Black people ain't included on. We won't bring them up because they have nothing to do with the concept, the lifestyle of Black people having Black people, Black issues.
Very good.
But you're gonna do them. It's a lifestyle that only talks about Black people.
Right.
We're not distracted, because what will happen is we will spend 2 hours talking about a Chinese chip shop.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then we realize actually
very good.
a Chinese chip
I like
shop
that.
has nothing to do with Black Betterment, but all 4 of us will probably eat Chinese chips. Right? Because we like it. Yeah.
Yeah, you. But the overall concept is allies. That was the overall concept. That was allies to help a goal. So a small goal is feeding your family. Another big goal is getting funding for your company to help Black people. They're allies. That's kind of the concept I want to get.
Let me just, I don't want to go back and forth. Before I say, I'm saying that whatever you want to do to get your money, if it's legal, whatever, do that. But when you decide to only start building with Black people, that is the Black Betterment process. Before it doesn't count. It won't be registered. It won't be registered as that.
Right. But I like that, Raven. That's quite powerful what you're saying there. Wow. Takes a while to click.
It does take a while to click. The way I write is I need to really try to get people to focus on a particular thing. And because Black people are naturally subservient, what we tend to do is we focus mainly on non-Black people. So in the very ruling of everything based on, let me just go back, because sometimes what happens at the beginning of this show is because I do it all the time, people might skip the intro because it's slightly boring. But let me go back here. What is Black Betterment? Let's read it again. Black people helping Black people on Black issues for betterment. You see? So the word Black is used consistently, and there's a bit of stylish. What I'm saying is, once we go out of that, once we start talking about Chinese people, Perusian people, aliens, and this kind of stuff, once we start doing that, this is fine. Yeah, do that, because you live in the world and you see people. But that concept can no longer be Black Betterment. And I add a synonym to that. And when I say that synonym, I say funny word. I use the veganism as a very clear, because once again, from my detailed learning, whenever we use Black, African, whatever, people tend to not get it because it becomes hard. But when we use other examples like veganism, it makes sense. Like, can a vegan eat a duck? It's either yes or no. So in the act of eating a duck, you're not a vegan. Once you start eating, you're a vegan. Not at that point, no. But if afterwards, you know what? I actually don't want to eat ducks anymore. You can become a vegan again, right? That's cool. Yeah. But at no point in a vegan magazine can you describe you eating that duck. And at no point on the vegan broadcast can you describe eating that duck, because that is only about vegan.
Right. Yes, I think what you're saying is look. I've been listening to your coming on this program, and I didn't actually get it till today.
Yeah,
that shows you, but I just clicked.
Let me say how we are.
What you're on today.
You get it, but the thing is,
I never got it.
I read this
Raven, sorry, can I ask about that vegan thing? Because here's how my analogy works in the vegan thing.
Go ahead.
You're trying to create, I don't know, a vegan farm or whatever it may be, but you'll require meat eaters to help you out with it. That's what I'm talking about. When it comes to this here on the screen, Black people helping Black people on Black issues for Black betterment. In that process, you probably may need non-Black people in order for you to help other Black people for Black issues, for Black betterment. That's all I'm saying here. You may need non-vegan eaters to help you on your guide or your process.
Yeah, but don't talk about it, Wim. Don't talk about it. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
No. I hear you. I'm saying we need allies, but they're like the first separation between me and Care was he doesn't want that at all. That was the difference.
But if you could, in the beginning of my dialogue, brother, or due respect to what I said was, in Garveyism, the Honourable Marcus Garvey made it clear, you can have temporary coalitions. You see, temporary, brother, right? And the reason why he said that for is because sometimes, brother, you're gonna be in certain situations where you're gonna need coalition. But he also made it clear, capital T on temporary, not capital P permanent, because he understood our mind, brother. Because when we have coalitions with non-African people, because as what Brother Raven says, right, we're very subservient, and our dopamines for non-African people makes it permanent. And then what happens is, right, we get too comfortable, right, and then we haven't built anything for the next generation, for our family. So all they have to do, brother, is lock off or dismantle or break that coalition, and guess what? We end up with nothing. So yes, in the principles of Pan-Africanism, self-determination, all things, we do believe that you're supposed to have your own money and getting the people collective on that. However, in certain circumstances, right, when it comes to trading policies, right, temporary, but it must only be temporary until you are independently to build for your people more. And that's what I said in the beginning, brother, in political science.
Go on, brother. IC3, you've got a question?
Yeah. My head is just clicking into this. I've only just caught what you were saying. It's very, very interesting. It's quite serious, actually, because if we were to go by what you're promoting, what you're saying, the quality of conversation and the use of time in meetings and conversations would be so much improved.
Of course, yes.
Because that's what gets me frustrated. You just listen to them. Oh, the Jews are doing it. The Jews are doing it. And they're just talking about everybody. And at time it's just going on and on. They're talking all over the place. And so, what is a solution? So much whinging. So if you're focusing on solutions, direct solutions, it kind of trims the conversation and uses the time more effectively.
Yes.
Brilliant. I just got you now.
I a million percent agree with what you said there, IC3. I a million percent agree with what you're saying, IC3. I think going back, I don't want to go back, but just going back to my Levi Roots analogy, Levi Roots, when he's gone up, like, I want to, create a product, a branded product that's national wide so it can help Black people. The solution is to do that. The process would be, okay, can we source the funds? No. Who do we go to help source the funds? That will be it. And that's it. Job done. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you. Two things start to that, brother, and just two things. One, the way we said it is, if Brother Levi Roots decides to go that way and start, and he gets funding and he gets money, because the thing is, once you get funding, you're actually connected to the people who fund you. So his original product will still be co-owned by the other people. That's fine. But with the money makes as the profit, he can make new things that's disconnected and start new things, or whatever. That's one thing. But also, we always limit ourselves, and how we limit ourselves is we always think that we need to go to other people, but there are millions of millionaires who can do this. But that the framework to get them together to make their own dragon's den, maybe call it a lion's den or a cheetah's den, or African animal, whatever it is. We haven't done that yet, but that can be done because we do have many millionaires. So once again, it's a bigger thinking, but I understand that we might not get there. But if we're not getting there, there is no value in us talking about asking for money from non-Black people, because that process has nothing to do with Black Betterment. And just so you know, I'm going to show you a picture. We'll show you a picture. What happens is, if we don't have certain guidelines, what we end up having is people who are meant to be our custodians doing this, like as a template, as in we realize that there's no policies that they pass that's for Black people, because this basic concept of actually being a custodian doesn't mean anything, right? So we have to have the framework where we actually can break down what is it that needs to happen, right, to actually be dedicated to Black people and be a custodian. If that makes any sense, brother, let me just go back to it. And also there was something I gave away that I don't know if you read it, but it's very powerful. Here we go. And this is something that you can use everywhere you go. It's don't mistreat non-black people, because one, it's not nice, and two, it can be used to undermine black progress.
Yeah, I think that was what I was getting at the start. To be fair,
Very
so
important.
that sums it up perfectly.
When you go to these rallies and there's you're down with the white man, this guy, whatever, all the crackers kind of stuff, whatever it might be. What you want them to know is there's going to be a very sensitive, subservient black people in the crowd, and they might not be able to process that, and it's against them you're working it, and that was part of the undermining process, because now two black people are going to argue about what you should or shouldn't be saying, rather than how do we build. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, wasting time.
Wasting time. So this way it doesn't undermine anyone's actual personal belief. So the person who believes that non-black person is evil, this doesn't undermine their belief. And the person who believes that non-black person is the best person of all time doesn't undermine their belief. You see?
Focus.
It's focus. It's like not everything has to be said.
Right. Good, very good.
Empress Kush, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just listening to the brothers, and I do agree that, in this climate, the only way to get access to funding is probably outside of the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the brother was saying that on the basis of what he was saying in regards to, the allies or having relationships and not being insular. And I think this is the kind of thing that needs clarifying to people, that, of course, it could be used to tarnish someone, right? So they can say, you're all about black business, but where did you get your funding from? So it needs to be, we need to actually have that conversation and make it clear that in reality, where we are now, we're not fantasists. We have to be realists. So in the reality, what it is now is that it's understandable if a business has to go outside the company. But I'll keep saying it, and this is why we do have to mention other communities like the Jewish communities, because until you've got your Anti-Defamation League or a basis, you will have to go out. So we have to go out now, but as Brother Raven says, it's what you do with what you do with the funding that counts.
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just think that also having these expectations, or the way that Brother Raven set things out, is actually a good thing. We need more things in our community, which we used to have from the beginning, that are aspirational. We shouldn't have things that are set for where we are at the moment, because where we are at the moment ain't helping no one. So we need to be looking and expecting things that are aspirational, things that are better in the current circumstances that we are now.
And I think we want to make distinctions between contemporary kindness and traditional kindness, right? And contemporary love and traditional love. And that is, Black Betterment deals with traditional love and kindness, meaning we realize that black people are collectively inadequate and hated by all and has no allies. So the kind of love we show is inwards to our own group until we can actually start showing it to our group. It's too premature to give the little percentage of love and economics we have to the world. We need to build up and get a certain foundation, and then we can join humanity as an equal and not as a subservient. That's just from my observation and stuff.
Also, Raven, is that it can be done on the principles self-determination, that we can use our own money to build things. If it happened in the time of the Honourable Marcus Garvey, which he made it possible, and it's happening amongst the other African descendants that has organized for black people globally to fund an institution, we can do it. It's just that what I don't want us to do and to be confused about is when the Honourable Marcus Garvey was talking about temporary coalitions, right? It's not necessarily referring to money. You see, that should come from us. But sometimes, for example, trading in Africa and at the borders, right? You may need to, until we get our power, we may need to have a coalition, but as long as you're having that coalition, but you're using the resources to build up to get power, then there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to wealth or building an institution, that should only come by black people only. He did it in his time, and we can do it in that time.
And let me add to that, just because the Levi Roots thing, and just to make it clear, because I've heard this before in some of the videos that's been taken off, and this concept of feeling that the community is using you, you're not good enough in this kind of sense, where you say, I'm not going to be seen as this because I went inside my group, or whatever. And I want to look past that. No, that shouldn't be what people are talking. There's certain actions you do that label you a certain thing, and if you don't do that, so be it. But it is what it is. But in regards to the diagram I've got on at the moment, what we have to understand is, yes, we were going to have to fund outside our group and get funded. This makes sense. But however, we might not have the skill set in the black bearers of the world today might not have the skill set to do the most important thing. And one of the most important thing is realizing that actually amongst black people collectively is all the resources needed to do a wonderful thing. And what is needed is the orator or the system provider who actually makes it make sense to get all the important people to actually together to form a webway. Yeah. So if we look on the diagram at the moment on the screen, I'm demonstrating that Europeans have a certain network that they've developed over where things are circulating really well, and we're struggling to do that. But if it comes to getting funding, we can't. There is people who can fund with lots of money, but it's about having them being Pan-Africanized or black betterers, where they see the value of doing things. And then you have media companies that can also do the Lions Den, the Dragons Den, or the Cheetahs Den, but the Cheetah Den is dedicated for black betterment, as in we recognize, very important point, that because black people are collectively inadequate, we struggle with economics. So that means there is a value in black people come together to make their variant of the Dragon's Den, called the Cheetah's Den, or whatever it is. And it might be on a smaller scale. It might only be on YouTube. It might be on a black platform that doesn't work properly. I don't know. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you start small, but you recognize everyone's synchronized and they have the same goal. So it is this less problematic. But once again, it might be someone greater than us who can actually make that make sense. And all we are doing is trying to reach that intelligent person, that woman or man or child out there who have a way of taking information and making it make sense, making it work for black people. And all we can do is make sure that we're constructive enough to make them listen so they can do the next step. So we're essentially hanging hand in the baton. But if as a people we're saying, yeah, I recognize we can't get funding because we're finished or we just don't have it there, then already we've identified a shortcoming that we need to work on, and we can have someone in the community can help us with that if it isn't us. If that makes any sense.
Because Brother Raven as well, in that if the non-Africans are going, their kids are going to university because of the black pound, the black dollar, and the black euro, and the black pound, the black euro, and the black dollar is helping the Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, Pancakes Day, you know what I mean? Whatever kind of day you want to even go down in that, and it's funding that, then brother, the Honourable Marcus Garvey is right, and what you said is right, that we can fund our own liberation.
Of course. These are the facts. I mean, remember, one of the problems we have is we're completely unsynchronized. The reason we're unsynchronized is because this is how it was developed. It doesn't make, like, black people are the biggest funders of non-black institutions, right? And the working class, the subservient class of all other people groups. This is what happens. We've culturalized struggling. So if we were to change that, then we're going to affect other people's comfortability. But what I'm saying is, we don't necessarily need to worry about other people's comfortability anymore, because other people have lived for generations off the backs of black people. So it is about how do we commercialize and rebrand synchronization? How do we make black people helping black people on black issues make sense? Hence why I've come with the concept of a lifestyle. If I said religion, or I said rule, or I said law, then people will be fine. But I'm saying, veganism, you either want it or you don't. No one can put a gun to you to be a vegan. It's a lifestyle, it's a choice, isn't it? But once you agree to that lifestyle, you have to stick to the principles to be called that. So by all means, if you're a vegan who wants to eat duck, we can't kill you for that, but we can say in that process, you're not a vegan.
Yeah, because what you're saying reminds me of what Neely Fuller was saying. Because you say, I think when people were asking him questions about religion, he's saying, if you call yourself a Christian, you're only a Christian at the moment that you're doing those Christian things. When you stop doing Christian things, you're not a Christian. So it's the same thing you're saying.
And just
So therefore there's a clash then. So if you're not race first,
right,
if you're not living that race first lifestyle, then you claim to be Jewish, or you claim to be Christian, or you claim to be Muslim, then you're dipping in and out. I mean, can you do both effectively? You can't, can you?
So let me demonstrate what I've put, because naturally when black people interact, many people have their own different religions, and some people say they can't practice a black betterment concept and be religious. So what I've demonstrated here is I want people to see people as phones. So this is an analogy now, and I want people to see religion as an operating system. Yeah, like iOS and Apple, Android, whatever it might be. But I want them to see Black Betterment as an application, i.e. Google or WhatsApp. You see? So if you break it down like that, you can have your religion as well as still practice Black Betterment. It's an app.
Right. Okay.
It's an app.
Good.
And just like you will use Google every time you log on your PC. So, how much you wish to help Black people depends on how much you want it. But at no point is it mutually exclusive. Yeah.
Right. It's just the operating system.
Yeah. So your religion is your operating system, while your Black Betterment lifestyle is an application within the operating system. So that means you might be a Muslim person who only eats 5 times, who eats the kind of food they need to eat and prays 5 times a day, whatever it might be. You do all the things that your religion says you have to do, but at the same token, you're creating institutions for Black people. You're training Black love. You're teaching Pan-Africanism. You're creating meetings and all things that are dedicated to helping Black people. But you pray 5 times a day. You read the Quran or the Bible or the Torah, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good, but I just sense that there's a clash for time, because in a religion,
yes,
sometimes time is required of you to do certain things. So sometimes time and some certain acts. So in order to follow that religion, there might be activities that are.
I hear that might take more time, right?
So how do you work that out then? Go on.
Here's how, and this is connected to WIM's thing as well, where he's like acknowledging that different people have different paces and different backgrounds. What Black Betterment allows one person to be exceptionally fast and one person to be exceptionally slow, but recognizing that even though as a collective, the contributions of the all is still very necessary. So, for example, in the lifetime of one person, let's just pretend, let's go analogy. Let's say that one guy is not religious; he just has himself and Black Betterment, and in his lifetime, he managed to create a bank, a country, a computer, and all these amazing things to help Black people, right? While the religious person, they create a football club. There's it might not be as much, but when you see the contribution, right, and we don't undermine that, and we recognize that some people are born a certain way where that's just what they are. It's the culture they come from, and it makes sense to them. But we don't want to limit them because we understand how time works, and they might be able to do less. Does that make sense?
Okay. Good. Very good.
Anything from Brother Kel, Brother WIM, or Empress Kush as we hit the last 10 minutes?
Bro, it's a good analogy you brought there, man. I believe that the religious people are capable, as it pertains to the African descendants of religion, they are capable of fulfilling this task, because certain religious tasks doesn't really take that long. So they are capable. And it's a brilliant analogy, brother. I'll share to you with this one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and for me, I want to echo Kale's sentiment, but just expand it, not from religion, but just in general. If someone has kids, they're going to have less time than someone who doesn't have kids. So there may be younger people who have more opportunity to do things, and usually younger people are the soldiers who actually got so much energy and time, whereas the older people, they unfortunately have to pace themselves differently. So I see it like that. You see, useful in different ways.
Hold on, I'm going to do a magic pause on yours because every time you talk, you bring up really wonderful points that we have to magic pause. And magic pause is with Black Betterment, the more you synchronize, the more you're around Black people, the more you're practicing. So, for example, let's just say Michael Jackson. You see Michael Jackson, wonderful man. Yes, we all agree. Made wonderful music. He adopted 3 white children. So while he's raising them, he's giving them a form of betterment, life betterment. He's teaching them how to sing, dance, and eat. Now, had Michael Jackson had Black children or adopted Black children, while he's with them, the thing we're saying is taking up time, he could actually be practicing Black betterment with the children, meaning teaching them how to be a high principle, teaching them how to do the moonwalk, teaching them how to, eat correctly and then train other people to eat correctly. He would be doing that to Black kids. So that's why, even though kids and marriage takes a lot of time and work, if you pick Black people to do that with, you will be practicing betterment because you're teaching them how to be better in that kind of. It's all holistic and connected. But the trick is to be around as many Black people as possible. And some of the easiest ways that we can see is marriage and kids. But carry on, brother. Sorry for it.
No. You raised a point which, funny enough, I would love it. I don't want to tell you what to do on your show. I would love it to be like a topic, because one of the things I've noticed when it comes to people and doing good things for the Black people is they neglect the community that they started off with, which is their own family that they made. Yeah. A lot of times I've seen situations where they're so focused on helping all Black people globally that they forget their own family that they've created. And you're right. I think that's something which, for me, when it comes to the Black community, the Black wider community, it starts in your home. And a lot of people have these wonderful ideas about how to help everyone else, but their own family they've neglected. So that's something which I've always thought to myself, yeah, a lot of leaders, they do seem to have that unfortunate situation. Now, some things that it might be impossible because they're needed elsewhere, but yeah, I see some things where I'm like, you've not even sorted out your home, let alone try to sort out everyone else's situation. So yeah.
Well, brother, why it matters, that's very interesting, because from proof and evidence, it's the opposite. Because we're so individualist, we tend to only sort our families out and don't help out the rest. I see the African community, all due respect to, in that historically is like, I'm going to help mine first. I'm not going to be protesting because I may lose my job and won't be able to provide. See more that we're internalizing individually for our own family and not globally. And you'll see that, brother, all due respect to you, right? Throughout history, past and our time, it's the same thing. So it's really the opposite of that. All due respect to you, brother.
No, I mean, that's fine. I've got a couple of examples which I was thinking what sprung to mind, and so that's the reason why I used it. So there's a couple of examples who I don't know if you claim them as Pan-Africanist. That's the only thing I'd say, but who have history with multiple women and multiple children and a lot of things like that. That's probably why it came to mind. But if you have different experiences, then yeah, I'll definitely take your definitely your stance valid. So yeah.
Keeping in mind that everything we do, we can use a chart. So if a Black man has children and he's not raising them or spend time with them, would we say that's high principle or error prone?
It's definitely
easy. It's error prone, right? So then we need to convince them to become high principle. So in every activity we do, we can use this chart and we can have a scaling. So if you're married to a woman and you never speak to her, you never talk to her, is that high principle or error prone?
And you never speak to her and helping her out.
You don't help her. You don't do anything to better her life.
Yeah, but that's error prone again, brother.
Of course, error prone. So that means we understand that when you're married, we want to do things to better them and help your wife out. Yeah. So we understand that. That's why I say that even though Black betterment is Black people helping Black people on Black issues, it's also high principle led, meaning you're striving to be as high principle as possible you can. Because what you might find is there's a Black person who loves Black people and they're around Black people doing all this kind of stuff, but they do it in an error prone way. And what you described there, brother, is an error prone way, meaning not looking after your kids, not helping your wife out, and just not coming home at all. Yeah. Right. And
But then brother Raven, it could be the same as just only helping your family and not helping. Of course. This is why we're in the situation, brother. You know what I mean?
So and ICCP has a question, and before you answer the question, let me just say before you ask the question. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. As in, like, yeah, it's this kind of like catch-22, whatever it is, but it's like you can only do what you can do, but you're always looking forward. So maybe you're from a poor environment and you've got problems in your family, whatever it is, and so the most of your resources is fixing your family. But you understand that the goal is to join the community and be an active member in Betterment, rather than it's just not even on your mind. It's just you're just trying to survive. Go ahead, brother IC Freak.
Right. Okay. So this is going to be a combination of what you were saying and what Brother Kale was saying earlier on, when he mentioned the disciplinary. So, disciplinary.
Mm-hmm.
Who is to blame, or who is responsible for when people classified as black are error-prone or do error-prone things? What is the way to respond to people classified as black who have behaved in a way that you have perceived to be error prone? Because then how would you get? Yes, it's a general question, and then so the second part of that question is then, because then you need to sort that out in order to apply a disciplinary. Yes, so you have to identify an error error in behavior has taken place. Yes, once you've identified that there's an error, because it's in the error prone section, then the disciplinary comes in. So show me, explain to me how that works.
I'll be very quick. Someone is doing something that isn't producing fruit, isn't producing the just goal, right? Or it might be on a smaller scale, i.e., I get paid to go on TV and just call all black people monkeys and aliens and idiots, and I get paid for that. So that's good for me, but it's not good for other people. So we highlight that, we highlight the history of that, and then we give a direction of how to go from that level -5 error proneness to a high principle 2-3. We give a direction, but ultimately, what all you can do is give a direction, because unless, of course, this is where it gets different. Unless, of course, you do something like this, where let me see if I can find it. This is one way. Hopefully, this will answer your question. Where are you now? It should be quite early up. Okay. Give me 79. This one's got 100 pages. The structure of, and I'll explain when I say the thing, because usually symbols help people understand. Unless you have a structure like, there we go, like this, where the people who practice black betterment, this is the lifestyle they practice. And to be honest, they are governing what they want. Just like a vegan, they govern what they want. But if once vegans or black people, whatever, join a fellowship, there are rules. Now, the rules should be high principle. Once all the elders of that fellowship have rules, then in order to be a part of that fellowship, you have to uphold the rules. That's where it's actually a form of law or something like that, where it's like, because you form the fellowship, if a person is unsynchronized with that, they'll have to leave. That is the punishment. And they can only stay in there by upholding those particular basic tenets. Does that make sense?
So the disciplinary is applied within the group, within the
fellowship. A fellowship,
right.
But
the
fellowship only allows black betterers to join, right? Once they join that, because these fellowships might have particular things they need to do. So because of particular things, they have particular rules, right? So certain fellowship will be more strict in certain areas than others because the nature of what they're trying to fix, right? So in that context, before people joining, they all have to agree to the rules that are laid out. If they don't agree, they have to form their own fellowship or join other fellowships that might correlate more with what they're trying to do. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's the answer to your question, brother. Empress or Carl, anything you'd like to add?
No, but what I was going to say is that the code of conduct should be our leader as it pertains to the collective. Just like how it was in ancient times, that we all had different rules, and the code of conduct will dictate if a person's doing high principle or error prone. No different than the fellowship, I suppose. But as for what happens to them, then one of the methods that I will say is nobody likes to be campaigned on a principle of making them feel guilty for what they've done. The unsynchronized Africans must be they must be known with the disciplinary, whether it be emotionally or emotionally, that it affects them, to make them understand what they're doing is completely wrong. You know, we must be very stern in these things in order for these principles to be practiced, because Brother Raven is right. You know, they will form their own coalition, but at the same time, it could make them even more unsynchronous. So we need something which is not extreme, but where the community will say, well, you can't come to this area because you married an African woman. You can't come to this area because you didn't help out building generational wealth. So as long as you turn your back on them everywhere they go, then they will start to get the message. It has to be a unity thing. The disciplinary is that for now.
Wow. I mean, Brother Kale, now, if you put out that you say you're having a meeting, for example, you're going to have a conference, and the only people allowed in the conference are black people, then they can call the police on you, can't they? Because they can say that the organization is going against the race relations and the law, the British law. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the law, the law says you can't discriminate. So they can come in, and if they see that you have an organization that says, oh, only black people can come in, then you put in your head, you're going head to head against the government.
But not necessarily, Elder, because if you look at it carefully, right, you have to solemnly immerse into these code of conducts. You see, there are people, brother, that would die for the sake of their code of conducts, right? So when you immerse and be solemn to these code of conducts, right, the punishment is that if you disobey the code of conduct, black people globally turn their back on you. That means when you want to go to Senegal, they're going to turn their back on you. If you want to go to the Caribbean, they're going to turn their back. That is your punishment. And that's one of the most worst, devastating punishment that can ever happen to you, that you're isolated mentally from going to places.
Your community.
From your community. You may be able to use your passport and go on the European airline. But when you go into the black continent and that, everyone knows what you did. That is the disciplinary. That is the order mark, Elder.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's going to take some organization.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say as well, was technically the way we word things is it isn't for black people, it's for black bearers. Yeah. Which is actually people who practice a lifestyle, just like vegans. You know, you have a
oh, right. Okay.
So it's not for black people, because black people are not welcome to black bearer institutions. It's just black bearers.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah. And also with black bearers, there will be no issue with people not understanding or the breaking the law, because the black bearers are trying to do a particular thing, and that's fix black issues. So, like, once you become a black bearer, all the slow pace actions of what about this group, what about that group, what about this and that, you're so synchronized that you'll never hear that ever. And this is the equivalent of being a black belt. When you're a black belt in this kind of stuff, you don't have white belt conversations.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's so it'll never be an issue. Empress, any questions you'd like to have before we go? Any last thoughts, Sister Empress?
Yeah, there was a good conversation happening, and I enjoyed the points that were mentioned. I would say though, you could definitely hold an event where it would be predominantly black people, because there's private clubs for Turkish people. If you go Chinatown, they're definitely insular. I think there's ways about doing it. So you don't have to say black only, but you can say that we'll be discussing this only. And, you know, if you're not about that, you'd feel very uncomfortable. So we wouldn't have to worry about them coming. Because I think there'll be ways about that politically that we could go about doing that. Other groups are practicing that. And what I do want to say is, on the back of Levi Roots, though, I do feel that I should speak up because while I was doing stuff for my business, I did go to an event where, no, actually, I do want to raise a point on what Brother WIM said about the investment. Yes, I agree that we do have the gold investment, but I do believe that when you look at things like America, and they've said that African Americans alone are like the 5th richest country, just their income. And when you think of the richest black men or and women, I know they're women, I'm not sure if it's the man, I think it was the man last time I checked, are in Africa. It is clear that what Brother Raven and Kel are saying is that there is wealth within us. And if we had an opportunity or some form of a league, our own version of league, and pull that together, would be in a better situation. And on the Levi Roos point, I would say that he had to go to the Dragon's Den, and the Dragon's Den actually take 50%, something stupid, if not more. I think the minimum is 50% of everything you take. So the way they weigh it out is that if you get accepted, you've got a mentor who has done well in business, and you've also got their backing, and you've got them mentoring you through the process. They're invested in you, so it's within their interest that you succeed as well, right? But in reality, if you look at some of the things that he has said, and I've been to speaks where he has spoken, they have taken a lot out of his money. And if you just look at his business practice, when he went in, he was pushing reggae sauce, right? If you look at what he's done since then, you can see that 50% was a lot. He did get his first million or something like that, which everyone was talking about a few years ago from there, or he did really well. But that 50% and that dragon, you know, that man has got strings on that particular business. So if you look at what he's done since then, he went into restaurants, right? So you might have 50% in my sauce, but you do not have 50% of my restaurants. So I've leveraged, I've managed to spring off of what I've got from you, my popularity that I've got from you, the investment, the business sense, the links, whatever, and I try to do something where you're not going to get 50% off. And he has been doing that collectively a lot. If you see him, he's not just with the sauce. He's done a range of other sauces. He does ready-made meals now. You can see that he's trying to go out on his own. What I give him respect for is the event that I went to was like a British version of Sunsplash. Sunsplash is like a big event that typically happens in Jamaica. It's been happening for years. Big artists go to it. It's a big like kind of concert. You get to see a whole line of like A-class events, A-class artists. And he did that in London. And when he did that, not only did he just do that and house that and sponsor that, and he sponsored it. He had his banners, everything all around. It was really not just a rush job that we kind of see in our community. He really went in. He'd have like free chips, you know, like dipping chips, dips for everyone. And when I say it was an event, it was a stadium. It was huge. It was like an exhibition where you could walk freely and you could walk for miles and you still haven't reached one side to the other. And then there was a huge hall. You'd have artists. The Marleys were coming down. Everyone was supposed to come. The Marleys were supposed to come down. They were headlining it, but of course they got stopped at the airport or whatever, some business. But other American artists made it. It was a really big event. And then he handed out free eating guides, healthy eating guides, and then he handed out ingredients, and then he handed out snacks, drinks. Like this was all free. So this was on his back. He didn't have to do that. Then there was other vendors, not his vendor, you know, other vendors there selling food. So they're making money. And then obviously some of the proceedings that went on was going towards a charity that he was doing that was for the community, because he was doing the lunchtime meals for a couple of schools in South London. And then he was promoting his daughter, and his daughter has beautiful locks, and you can tell that she's definitely about the culture. And so he was initially a Rasta man, but this is why I feel for Levi Roots, because that never got publicized. Everything that he did and the amount of money that must have cost him never gets publicized. And we don't see what it looks like when we actually have living proof of people working within our community and what he did. There was thousands of people that turned up. Even if you didn't spend money, you ate, you drank, you got to see a brilliant concert. You know, he did all of that. And then you went home with ingredients. And I'm not just talking about a little sachet. I'm talking about like bags, like his whole bags of his stuff, fair play, but it was for free and it wasn't sample size. And he gave that away to everyone. So, and there was CDs in there and everything else. So I say that to say that what I think that's a prime example of, yes, he might have got that funding, but we've got to understand that it's murky out there when you actually succeed in business and you don't have no institution to back you and you don't know what to do. And the fact that he's left, because even the restaurant that he did has failed. It just recently closed. So everything that he's trying to do, you can see if you look at the businesses that he's trying to get some form of independence. But with the money that he's got and the popularity that he's got within the culture, he still tries to give back. You know, the lunchtime things that he was doing in South London, predominantly a black area, you wouldn't have heard of that about it if you weren't in certain groups. So I'm sorry if I was going on, but I just feel like we do need to give our flowers to people who are actively doing it. And it's my responsibility, if I'm in these areas and I'm hearing all these things and I'm not seeing it, to vocalize it. Because when I really think of how I was there and I saw some artists, you know, brilliant artists from Jamaica come down, America, you know, it was such a good vibe. And you know, that was in England, done by Levi Roots, sponsored by Levi Roots. You got fed and you went home with food. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying that to say that on his name as well. Just to, you know, if anyone looks back on this, I just want that to be known about him as well.
Yeah, much respect to Brother Euros. We've always had respect for him, and you know, he's inspiration, always. Anyone else for the last thoughts of the show? Thank you for that, Empress Christy, for that. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Great show.
Thank you, Brother Cal. No, Brother WIM. Last word. Sorry.
No, nothing for me. It's been a good convo, so I've appreciated the conversation with everyone. So respect to everyone.
And thanks for the questions that made the show
today.
There you go. Excellent. Brother Cal, last word for you.
I think he did say he was going to be right back. I don't know if he's back then, but he's.
Okay. I think he actually did say. But guys, until next week, please join in. Please tell a friend, tell a friend. You know, we're going to try to find solutions in the show. If you haven't been on, feel free to jump on. We try to leave a space for black people to have their opinions, as long as you're constructive and you use the 4D values. But yeah, until then, Black Betterment, and see you guys soon. Sister Tash, I'll join your network in 10 minutes or 5. See you in a bit. Okay, bye. All right. And